Tonight, before going to bed, allow your mind to slow down like a lake after the wind. Inhale deeply, exhale gently. From the familiar room, we step into a quiet journey, not crossing oceans, not traversing continents, but going deep into the wisdom that has supported humanity for thousands of years. Each breath is a step. Each step is a doorway opening into peace. There, we will hear a reminder both simple and profound. Everything that happens has a reason, not a rigid fate, but the flowing stream of causes and conditions, where all things bloom from countless meeting factors. Imagine dawn over a small monastery nestled among misty mountains. The scent of pine and faint incense lingers. You have come here because of a persistent question. Why is life sometimes tangled, unjust, meaningless? An old monk smiles, inviting you to sit on a worn meditation cushion, softened by years. You seek the answer to suffering. The teacher's voice is calm like still water. If you look carefully, you will see nothing comes by accident. The wooden plank beneath you creaks softly as you shift your posture. The teacher points toward the window. Your breath forms a small cloud in the cold air before disappearing. Impermanence is like that, he says. Everything arises, stays a while, then changes. You remember the stream cutting across the mountain path. The water has never been a fixed block, yet the stream is still the stream. The mind is the same. Thoughts glide by like water, none of them remaining forever. In the quiet, old memories surface, lost chances, paused relationships, roads not taken. The teacher seems to read this. Every thought, every word, every action of yours creates ripples, he says softly. That is karma, not reward or punishment, but cause and effect. A pebble falls into water and circles spread outward. Your task is to see clearly what you are casting in. Step into the garden. The stone path curves around low pines, passes a dry pond, and stops by a small stream. The teacher picks up a pebble and drops it into still water. The circles expand evenly. Karma is not destiny. The pebble is neither punished nor rewarded. It simply does what all pebbles do when meeting water. Unlike the stone, you can choose what you will release. He places another pebble in your hand. Try to make square ripples. You smile, let go, and the ripples are still round. The natural law does not change. You cannot make water form square ripples, but you can choose actions aligned with wisdom, so the results you sow bring less suffering and more peace. You ask, if that's so, why do good people still suffer, and those who harm sometimes prosper? The teacher leads you past vegetable beds where young novices are planting seedlings. Every seed has its season. Some sprout quickly, others need a whole cycle of rain and sun. Causes and conditions weave across years and lifetimes. Ordinary eyes cannot see it all. So do not rush to judge from a tiny slice of the present. You watch careful hands placing young plants into the soil and suddenly understand. You are still sowing without noticing. When the fruits emerge, you are surprised. The noon bell rings, and the whole monastery pauses like a held breath. In the dining hall, everyone bows to a simple bowl of rice. The teacher whispers, "See the entire universe in this bowl. Sunlight, rain, earth, the farmer, the carrier, the cook. Nothing comes here alone." You eat slowly, tasting the rice more clearly than ever. When the mind is fully present, the ordinary becomes abundant. After the meal, each person uses a piece of pickled vegetable to clean the last grains of rice. The water used for washing bowls is poured onto the plants. Everything is neat like a poem, with no excess words. In the afternoon, sitting in the meditation hall, light passes through mulberry paper, soft as milk. The teacher gently adjusts your posture, back straight but relaxed, shoulders soft, hands resting in your lap. Just know you are breathing, he says. Do not control, do not judge. You try. The mind wanders immediately. Household tasks, unanswered emails, unfinished stories. The teacher reminds, knowing you've wandered is already returning. Each return is a training of the mindfulness muscle. You notice tiny details, the cool air entering, warm air leaving, the brief pause between breaths. Awareness gradually expands, body, feelings, then thoughts. You see clearly that everything comes, stays, goes. Nothing remains still. Like waves rising and dissolving into the sea, the mind is the same. When you see this arising and passing within your own body and mind, the teacher whispers, you deeply understand why everything happens for a reason. Nothing appears without cause. It comes forth when conditions are sufficient. The idea of I am like this suddenly softens. You realize you are an ever-changing process, not a solid block named self. Step back into the garden. Afternoon sunlight pours gold over the pond, and lotus buds breathe quietly. Lotus grows from mud. The teacher points to the water's surface, yet the flower is pure. Suffering is not garbage to reject. Sometimes it is the very mud that nourishes the lotus of wisdom. A dragonfly lands on a leaf. The water trembles slightly. You suddenly recall times your life rippled from a small touch, a word, a message, and understand that those ripples were not random. They connect to layers of memories, habits, and desires. The teacher tells the story of the farmer and the horse. When the horse ran away, the villagers said it was bad luck. When the horse returned with a herd, they said it was good luck. When the farmer's son fell and broke his leg because of the horse, they said it was bad luck again. When the soldiers came to conscript young men but spared the boy because of his broken leg, they said it was good luck. The farmer only said, "We'll see." The teacher smiled. Wisdom is sometimes simply knowing to wait and see. Don't frame your life too quickly. Causes and conditions are still unfolding. You remember the times you concluded too hastily and later had to admit your vision was narrow. Perhaps labeling less will make the heart more at ease. Evening falls, clouds gather at the horizon. In a wooden corridor, an elderly monk carefully bends a small pine branch. The teacher says, he has tended this tree for 40 years. He does not force it into the shape he prefers. He just understands it and helps it grow according to its own nature. A moment later, the old monk hands you a small pair of scissors. Cut this sprout off, the tree will be more balanced. You hesitate, your hand trembles, but you cut. He nods. Good. You suddenly understand. Many times you fear mistakes and miss chances to learn. On the path of practice, the teacher is the one who creates a safe space for you to try, neither imposing nor abandoning. At the rocky peak overlooking the valley, the wind carries the smell of earth after rain. From above, rivers, forests, and rooftops form a seamless painting. Seen up close, you only see fragments. Seen from afar, you see the whole composition. Life is like that, the teacher says. From a narrow slice, we think it's unfair. From a broader view, everything has its reasons. Not to justify suffering, but to lessen resentment, lessen resistance, and know to plant good seeds from now. Back in the meditation hall, the monastery spends the evening practicing stillness to nourish equanimity. The teacher guides, recognize pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings. Observe the habits of clinging, rejecting, and forgetting. Practice standing in the middle with a warm heart. You suddenly sense that beneath all turbulence there is a vast quiet, like the blue sky behind the clouds. It is not about clearing the clouds, but realizing the clouds were never the sky. When the small bell rings 3 times, you open your eyes and feel a kind of lightness that's hard to name. Sipping warm tea, the teacher says, hearing everything has a reason. Many misunderstand it to mean those who suffer deserve it. Not so. Cause and effect does not judge. Understanding dependent origination is to increase compassion, not judgment. The best thing we can do when we see someone suffer is to help change the conditions around them. You nod. True wisdom always walks with compassion. If understanding makes you rigid, perhaps you have understood only half. Night falls. You lie on a thin mattress, the room quiet, a small candle glowing gently. You review the day, impermanence, karma, mindfulness, balance. Words that once seemed dry now soften into breath. You realize the phrase, "Everything happens for a reason," does not demand that you trace every cause. That would be impossible. It only invites you to be wiser in the present. Less resistance, less labeling, less self-blame, more observing, more choosing, more sowing of good seeds. Before sleeping, you set a very small intention. Tomorrow, when anything comes, a compliment, an unpleasant message, an unexpected delay, you will pause for a beat and ask yourself 3 questions. What conditions led to this? If I resist, what will grow larger? And how can I respond to create better conditions? That's all. Very small, very manageable. You smile, exhale deeply. Sleep arrives gently like a leaf touching water, without noise, without force. Behind all change remains a gentle truth. Nothing comes by accident. All is an invitation for us to grow in mindfulness and love. Early morning, the temple bell gently stirs the mist. You open your eyes after a rare, deep sleep. Your body no longer taut like an overstretched string. 3 slow breaths bring you back to the present, the humble room, the thin mattress, the warm scent of wood and pine mingling in the breeze. Outside, the stone courtyard already carries the steady rhythm of a broom sweeping. You remember the advice before sleep? Just 1 small pause. Ask 3 small questions. Today, you will begin with that pause. After a short morning meditation, everyone enters the dining hall. The first sunlight touches the edge of the bowl, its golden sheen thin as silk. You lift the bowl and see the rice fields, the farmer's hands, the long-haul truck, the crackling kitchen fire, and also the unseen conditions: skill, patience, cooperation. As you eat slowly, you notice the mind grumbles less, complains less. The teacher smiles. Mindfulness is that simple. When truly present, the ordinary becomes abundant. When rushed, what is precious becomes nameless. After breakfast, the teacher invites you for a walk in the garden. Today the sky is clear, the blue rinsed clean by last night's rain. Along the path, bamboo stakes support tender bean vines. The teacher points, "See, the beans already want to climb." The bamboo doesn't pull them up. It only provides the conditions for them to grow as they are. Practice is like that. Don't force yourself to become someone else. Just place the right bamboo stakes. Regular sleep, moderate meals, meditation within your strength, honest speech. With the right conditions, body and mind grow on their own. You ask what still troubles you. If everything has a reason, does that mean I just accept things? Then why strive to change? The teacher stops by a cluster of bamboo, touching a leaf, still holding a drop of dew. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is seeing reality clearly, recognizing the conditions present. Seeing them, you act appropriately. When it rains, wear a coat. When it's sunny, wear a hat. Don't curse the rain. Don't beg the sun. The suffering often lies in wanting the sky to change before we're willing to open our eyes. On a stone bench overlooking the valley, the teacher continues. There are 3 big misunderstandings about karma. First, thinking karma is a verdict. Do bad, be punished. Do good, be rewarded. Karma is not a court. It is the law of cause and effect. You reap what you sow, but where and when you reap depends on conditions. Second, using karma to blame. they suffer because of their karma. Saying that closes the door to compassion. Third, using karma as an excuse for inaction. It's decided, why bother? Understanding it that way misses your greatest freedom, the freedom to create new causes. The teacher's eyes are gentle yet firm. Living wisely means asking, with what I have now, what seed can I sow today so that tomorrow holds less suffering and more genuine joy? You speak of city life, deadlines pressing, notifications relentless, news pouring like rain. I try to turn things off, but my head stays noisy, you admit. The teacher nods. Environment is also a condition. Noise unsettles the mind, but even amid noise, you can create quiet spaces. Try 3 very small habits. First, before opening your phone, take 3 deep breaths and ask, why am I opening this? Second, every hour, stand up for a minute, relax your shoulders and neck, and let your eyes rest by looking far. Third, when angry, don't send the message immediately. Write it, set it aside, drink water, then read it as if someone else wrote it. If you can still read it with kindness, send it. Such bamboo stakes won't turn life into a monastery, but they give body and mind a place to lean. You are silent for a moment. Something within you softens. The teacher continues. When you understand dependent origination, you'll ask fewer why questions. Instead of, why did this happen to me? Try asking, how did this happen? The how brings you to reality. What conditions have converged? What conditions are you adding? What conditions can you loosen? The teacher picks up a fallen leaf and places it on the water's surface. The leaf drifts with the current, offering no resistance. Flowing doesn't mean giving up. It is the art of moving with the stream instead of thrashing against it until you're exhausted. If this sharing brings you relaxation and peace, please like and subscribe to Dharma in Motion. It's a simple way to continue walking with us on the journey of sowing seeds of wisdom and compassion into daily life. Returning to the meditation hall, the teacher introduces a new practice. Observe an emotion from the moment it sparks until it dissolves. You choose a familiar irritation, frustration when misunderstood. As you stir up a recent memory, you feel your facial muscles tighten, warmth rise in your chest, and your stomach contract. The teacher reminds, don't tell the story, simply name it. Heat, tightness, contraction. Then ask, what conditions are feeding this feeling? You notice a few thoughts circling fairness, a habit of wanting to explain immediately, old experiences of being misjudged. When you shine the light of mindfulness on it, the anger, like a stiff rope, begins to soften. It doesn't disappear, but it loosens its grip on your collar. A moment later, the teacher speaks again of the 4 noble truths in a very down-to-earth way. The first truth: life includes things not going our way, shattered expectations, fragile health, loved ones far away. The second truth: much of that suffering comes from attachment, wanting to hold on to comfort, push away discomfort, and force life to follow our blueprint. The third truth: less clinging means less suffering. The fourth truth: there is an 8-fold path to cling less. Seeing rightly, intending rightly, speaking rightly, acting rightly, earning rightly, striving rightly, remembering rightly, concentrating rightly. Each right is a small rung on the ladder, climbed slowly but steadily. By noon, clouds gather on the mountain peak and sudden rain pours down. The whole monastery moves like a single body attuned. Someone pulls the canopy, someone brings raincoats, someone gathers the drying laundry under the eaves. No one grumbles, only actions fitting the weather. The teacher laughs. That's living with dependent origination. Instead of, why did it have to rain now, each person simply does what needs to be done. You think of the rains in your own life, a troubled project, a shifted schedule. a loved one changing their mind. In those moments, you often sit blaming the first instant, and so miss catching the work of the next. Perhaps it only takes one habit change. Accept the situation as it is, then choose the next fitting action. When the rain stops, the teacher invites you to walk in the forest outside the gate. The earth is soft and smooth, scented with decaying leaves. Crossing a stream, you see stones placed just right for stepping. The stones weren't born to serve, the teacher says quietly, but when someone places them well, everything supports each other. Life is like that. Shift just one small pattern. Go to bed 15 minutes earlier. Take a breath before replying. Keep a water bottle on your desk, and the whole domino effect changes. You laugh, realizing wisdom sometimes wears a very ordinary face. At a fallen log blocking the path, earlier travelers carved steps. The teacher invites you to climb, resting a light hand on your shoulder as a railing. Obstacles often become stairs, he says. What matters is how you transform them. Some strike with a hammer, some turn away, some carve steps. The same log, 3 choices, 3 outcomes. In a sunlit clearing, the teacher tells a story. An elder monk knocked a cup of tea from a disciple's hands, and a scorpion hiding beneath was revealed. From a narrow slice, we conclude, someone harmed me. From a wider slice, it was protection. You remember times when plans were canceled, flights missed, opportunities slipped, only later realizing they spared you from a wrong path or a bigger problem. The teacher isn't asking you to paint everything rosy, only to remind, don't conclude too quickly. The phrase, "we'll see," is like a door left ajar, letting new breezes in. On the way back, the teacher gives a small exercise for modern life. Whenever you feel a strong emotion, try writing 3 columns. What happened? Objective event. What you're telling yourself? Subjective story. What you will do? Useful action. Between the first and third columns, read the second carefully. Much suffering grows from there. You can see how this exercise could sit right within work, family, and social media, places where the subjective story often balloons faster than the facts. Late afternoon, the meditation hall welcomes you with a dense stillness. This time, the teacher guides a deeper contemplation on the web of interdependence. Imagine the universe as an infinite net, each knot a jewel reflecting all the others. Every action of yours touches countless nodes. A smile, an apology, a kind email, small things that seem to vanish, yet their reflections travel far. You close your eyes, recalling a moment when someone gave up a seat for you on the bus. Your heart stayed warm all evening, and you spoke gently to a stressed colleague, one jewel reflecting another. Before dinner, the teacher speaks of the boundary between compassion and permissiveness. Understanding that someone acts clumsily because of their conditions does not mean letting them continue causing harm. Compassion is also setting limits to prevent harmful seeds from being sown again. Saying no when needed is also a form of love. You feel relieved. Kindness does not oppose firmness at the right time. The two become one when aimed toward reducing suffering. Night falls, and the wind from the forest blows cool. You jot down in your notebook a few bamboo stakes you wish to plant once home. 1. Before opening a social media app, take 3 breaths and ask, what am I looking for here? 2. Set a short alarm every 90 minutes to stand, roll your shoulders, and gaze into the distance. 3. In conflict, ask for 10 minutes of silence before replying. 4. Each night, write 3 lines of gratitude for the good conditions that nourished you today. These simple acts may look like time management, but in truth, they nurture mindfulness. Extra bamboo stakes for your mind and body to cling to as they grow. Before extinguishing the candle, you recall the morning, a bowl of rice containing the universe, Rain teaching adaptation, a fallen log turned into steps, the story of the scorpion under the cup, the endlessly reflecting net. Each image is a different way of saying the same truth. Nothing stands alone. Everything has conditions, and within those conditions, you always have a measure of freedom to respond with wisdom and compassion. You place your hand on your chest, feeling your heartbeat like a steady drum of life. That rhythm, too, is cause and effect. Food and rest, small joys and quiet sorrows, all shaping the quality of each beat. You close your eyes. A small intention arises, quiet as a firefly in the night. Tomorrow, whether fortune or setback comes, you will not rush to label it. You will pause, widen your view, and choose one kind action, even the tiniest, to drop into life's waters. The ripples will spread. You may never see their full course, but that's okay. Trusting this gentle law of interdependence, your heart eases. Everything happens for a reason, and among those countless reasons, you can choose to be a good one. Tonight, we continue the journey of listening and reflecting on Zen stories and Buddhist teachings, like a cool stream winding through the soul, soothing life's everyday worries and troubles. In this quiet, we will look more deeply into the Noble Eightfold Path, the 8 ways leading the mind from delusion to wisdom, from suffering to peace. When the Buddha spoke of the path to liberation, he did not draw a distant theory or set impossible demands. He showed us a very practical way, tied to every step, every breath, and every thought in daily life. The Noble Eightfold Path is the practice of an entire life, from speech and action to thought and awareness. First is right view, the correct way of seeing. A person with right view perceives the world without the distorted lenses of greed, anger, and delusion. They see that all things arise from causes and conditions, and they understand impermanence as the very nature of life. With right view, we recognize that happiness does not lie in clinging to fragile things, but in letting go, accepting, and living in harmony with the flow of all phenomena. In modern life, right view helps us avoid chasing illusions, prevents us from being swept away by chaotic information, and guides us to discern what truly matters for nourishing the soul. Next is right thought, correct thinking. This is the ability to reflect deeply without letting the mind be ruled by thoughts of hatred, greed, or harm. Instead, we cultivate thoughts of compassion, understanding, and concern for the common good. A person with right thought pauses when a harmful intention arises, observing it as one would watch a passing cloud in the sky. In a competitive society, right thought keeps us from falling into the spiral of comparison and rivalry, allowing us to live sincerely and wisely. Then comes right speech, truthful words. Speech is like an arrow. Once released, it cannot be taken back. Therefore, practitioners speak with kindness and constructiveness, avoiding division or harm. A kind word can heal, while a careless word can leave a lasting wound. In today's world of social media, where words can spread in an instant, right speech must be carefully cultivated. We can ask ourselves, is what I am about to say true? Is it beneficial? Is it necessary? Next is right action, correct conduct. Not killing, not stealing, not engaging in sexual misconduct. These are the basic ethical foundations. But right action goes further, inviting us to live with compassion and to consider others before acting. A timely hand clasp, a small act of love, is itself right action. In the rush of daily life, we may forget that even small deeds contribute to the karma of our own lives and the wider world. Then comes right livelihood, earning a living rightly. The Buddha taught that one's occupation should not harm people or living beings. Today, right livelihood can also be understood more broadly. Live so that you do not lose balance, and do not let earning a living consume your spiritual life. When we work with responsibility, honesty, and compassion, our work becomes not only a means of survival, but also a path of practice. Right effort is proper diligence. Effort is not exhausting struggle, but maintaining steady, consistent care in nurturing the wholesome and transforming the unwholesome. The diligent person is like a farmer patiently sowing seeds, tending them day by day, not rushing the harvest, but trusting in the future crop. In modern life, right effort reminds us not to give up midway, nor to chase results hastily, but to patiently nurture each small step forward. Next is right mindfulness, awareness in every moment. This is the heart of the entire path. With mindfulness, we are aware of what we are doing, saying, and thinking. Mindfulness is like a bright lamp, illuminating each action and keeping us from getting lost. When eating, we know we are eating, savor the flavors, and feel gratitude for the food. When walking, we know each step touching the earth, without letting the mind wander to past or future. In a busy world, even a few minutes of mindfulness can bring peace to the heart. Finally, there is right concentration, deep mental focus. When the mind is stable, it is like a still lake reflecting the sky clearly. From this stillness, wisdom arises, allowing us to see the truths of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. Right concentration is not an escape from reality, but the capacity to face it with a steady mind, undisturbed by storms and waves. The 8 factors are not separate but support each other like spokes joined on the Dharma wheel. When that wheel turns, it carries us from ignorance to awakening. On this path, we do not need to search for anything lofty, for each step in the right direction is already part of liberation. During meditation sessions, the temple teacher often reminds everyone, practice is not about becoming someone else, but about returning to yourself, seeing clearly the nature of body and mind, and from there, living more freely. This statement startles many, for we often think of practice as becoming something exalted, when in truth, practice is simply removing the layers of ignorance that veil our innate clarity. The lessons of the Noble Eightfold Path are not apart from daily life, they are daily life. When we quarrel or grow angry, we can recall right speech and right thought to adjust ourselves. When we feel weary with work, we can return to right livelihood and right effort to find balance. When we are confused by countless choices, we can return to right mindfulness to see our heart clearly and choose wisely. Once, during an evening tea ceremony, a monk told a brief story. Someone asked the teacher, "Which is the most important element of the Eightfold Path?" The teacher replied, "It is the step you are taking, because when you step rightly, all the other parts will follow in harmony." This simple answer holds deep wisdom. Mindfulness in the present moment is the gateway for all wholesome qualities to grow. Looking deeply, we see that the Noble Eightfold Path is not just a teaching for monks, but a map of living for everyone in today's society. In times of exhaustion from work pressures, in moments of struggle within family relationships, or when standing before important decisions, we can find guidance in these 8 paths. It is the gift the Buddha left, a path that does not grow old with time, for it touches the timeless essence of humanity. When night falls in the stillness, we can silently recite each factor of the Noble Eightfold Path like a verse. Right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. Each recitation plants another seed in the mind. And as the Buddha taught, the seed you sow is the fruit you reap. Sowing seeds of mindfulness and right understanding will inevitably bring forth the blossoms of peace in your life. As darkness settles, the mountain temple sinks into quiet, leaving only the wind whispering through the bamboo and the song of insects. In this atmosphere, we sit again to listen to Zen stories and the Buddha's teachings, like small lanterns lighting the spiritual path through the long night. Tonight, we will contemplate more deeply the teaching on karma and cause and effect, which forms the foundation for understanding that everything arises from causes, and every action, word, and thought we have is planting seeds for the future. A teacher once said, "Karma is not punishment, but the natural result of the seeds we sow in life." Just as when we drop a pebble into water, rings of ripples spread outward, touching all around them, so it is with karma. Every small action, whether wholesome or unwholesome, leaves an imprint not only on the world outside but also within our own consciousness. When we nurture loving kindness, the seed of peace grows within us. When we utter harsh words, the seed of suffering is planted, and one day it will bear fruit. The student asked, "Master, is everything I encounter in life determined by past karma? Then what can I change?" The teacher looked at the student with gentle eyes. Past karma creates the conditions for the present, but in every moment now, you are planting seeds for the future. You cannot change the seeds you sowed yesterday, but you can choose to sow different seeds today. It is the choice you make in the present that opens the door to freedom. The Buddha once taught, "We are the owners of our karma, the heirs of our karma, born of our karma, related to our karma, and supported by our karma." This saying may feel heavy to many, but in truth, it offers profound freedom. For if karma were fixed destiny, we would be powerless. But if karma is a seed, then in every moment we always have the chance to plant wholesome seeds that transform our lives. In modern society, the concept of karma is often misunderstood as fate or punishment. When someone faces hardship, others may hastily say, "That is your karma," but such words do not reflect the Buddha's true teaching. Karma is not for judging others, but for examining ourselves. When we see someone suffering, we should not think they deserve it. Instead, we should awaken compassion, for we too are sowing and reaping within the endless stream of cause and effect. Realizing this truth softens our arrogance when fortune smiles on us and tempers our harshness when others fall into misfortune. The teacher offered a simple example. When you plant an orange seed, you cannot expect to harvest apples. When you speak a loving word, another's heart softens. When you sow anger, the wound remains not only in the other person, but also within yourself. So instead of worrying about past karma, pay attention to the seeds you are planting today. In the monastery, even drinking tea becomes a lesson on karma. The teacher poured tea, handed it to the student, and said, "Mindfulness is the fertile soil. When you drink tea mindfully, you plant the seed of awareness. That cup of tea not only quenches thirst, but nourishes peace in the heart. Every small action, if done with clarity and mindfulness, is a wholesome seed." The student sipped the tea, feeling the flavor spread, gentle yet deep. He suddenly understood that this very attentiveness is the foundation of a mindful life. The teacher then shared a story from the scriptures. A woman who had lost her only child, overwhelmed by grief, came to the Buddha begging him to save her son. The Buddha did not speak of miracles, but told her to bring a handful of mustard seeds from a household untouched by death. She searched everywhere but found no such home. Returning to the Buddha, she realized the truth. Birth and death are part of life, and no one is exempt. From that moment, her sorrow began to transform. This story is not only about impermanence, but also about cause and effect. Every loss and every joy is the result of countless converging conditions. Seeing this clearly, we stop blaming and begin to let go. The Buddha taught that karma has three forms: bodily karma, verbal karma, and mental karma. Bodily karma is action. Verbal karma is speech. Mental karma is thought. Many believe only actions create karma, but in truth, thoughts also plant seeds. When we cling to anger, the seed of restlessness grows until one day it erupts into action. When we nurture compassion in the mind, gradually our words and deeds are infused with gentleness. Thus, practice begins with the mind itself, for it is the source of all karma. In modern life, we can reflect on karma through very ordinary situations. When we post a negative comment online, we not only hurt others but also plant an unwholesome seed within our own mind. Conversely, a word of encouragement can help someone overcome hardship and plant a seed of compassion for both of you. Karma is not somewhere far away. It is right here, in every click, every word, every glance. The student asked further, "Then what should I do if I have already planted harmful seeds?" The teacher replied, "Just like a garden with weeds, what matters is that you notice and begin to tend it again. No one lives without ever planting unwholesome seeds. But when you water wholesome seeds, the weeds gradually weaken. The key is not to despair, but to begin from this very moment." The teacher repeated the Buddha's words, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can, and no one may. We must walk the path ourselves." This teaching does not mean we are alone. It shows that freedom and peace lie within our own choices. Others can guide and support us, but only we can plant the seeds in the garden of our own mind. As the night deepens, the moonlight bathes the temple courtyard, casting long bamboo shadows on the ground. The student sits silently, feeling a new lightness in his heart. He understands that rather than dwelling too much on the past, the most important thing is to plant seeds in the present. In this way, each step, each breath, each word becomes an opportunity to cultivate happiness. The next morning, as the temple bell rings through the still air, each lingering note seems to remind that a new day has begun. The student quietly follows the teacher into the garden. The air still carries the dawn mist, and droplets on the leaves sparkle in the early sunlight. Everything seems silent, yet full of life. The teacher says, "Every morning is a chance to plant a new seed. You can plant seeds of worry and haste, or you can plant seeds of mindfulness and peace. The results of today will bloom from the seeds you choose this morning." The teacher leads the student to sit beneath a mango tree, pointing to a yellow leaf that has just fallen to the ground. "See, this leaf has completed its life fully. It does not resist leaving the branch. It follows its conditions, returning to the earth to nourish the tree. Humans are the same. If we follow causes and conditions and accept impermanence, there is nothing to fear. Only when you resist does suffering arise." The student ponders, "Master, how can I resist less when things happen? Sometimes I know about impermanence, but my heart still hurts." The teacher nods, smiling, knowing the theory is one thing, practicing is another. Start small. When something displeasing happens, instead of reacting immediately, just pause and take a deep breath. That breath is the bridge that carries you out of the automatic reaction. When you pause, you create a space for choice. In that space, you can plant a seed of wisdom instead of a seed of anger. The teacher tells a Zen story. A monk was often insulted by villagers while begging for alms. Every day he heard harsh words, yet his face remained serene. One day someone asked, "Don't you get angry?" The monk replied, "If someone offers you a gift, but you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The person answered, "It belongs to the giver." The monk smiled. "Then the insults, if I do not accept them, remain where they came from." Hearing this, the student felt a new clarity in his heart. Indeed, suffering arises only when we take it in. If we do not embrace it, it has nowhere to cling. In modern life, this can be applied even on social media. When someone leaves a negative comment, we have two choices: to react and let anger consume us, or to pause, smile, and let it pass. Not accepting it means we plant a seed of peace. Accepting it means we plant a seed of affliction. The teacher emphasized, Not everyone who insults you has the power to make you suffer. Your pain or peace is your choice. One afternoon, the teacher took the student to the fields and pointed to the farmer plowing. "Look at the seeds," he said. "When planted in the soil, they need rain, sunlight, and time to become plants. Karma is like that. Some seeds sown long ago bear fruit today. Some seeds you plant today will sprout later. Do not be impatient and do not despair. What matters is which seeds you are planting in this very moment." The student watched and realized that a human life is truly like a field. We cannot control everything, but we can choose which seeds to sow. And each seed planted with mindfulness will gradually transform the whole field. The teacher instructed, to plant wholesome seeds, you must first recognize the unwholesome ones. When anger arises, do not deny it. Look directly at it as you would at a crying child. You do not scold or strike the child. You simply hold and soothe it. Emotions are the same. When you recognize them with mindfulness, they will gradually settle. They no longer control you. The student recalled many times when anger had dragged him along, causing words and actions that hurt others. Had he paused, breathed, and been mindful, the outcome might have been different. The teacher repeated a Buddha's teaching. Tend your mind like a gardener tends the garden. Pull weeds, water flowers. Your mind has both weeds and flowers. What you nurture will grow. This simple teaching holds the whole path of practice. In life, we often unknowingly water seeds of restlessness, worry, anger, craving. Each time we read negative news or compare ourselves to others, we are watering weeds. But if we return to our breath, listen to calming music, read a sutra verse, or simply smile at a loved one, we are watering flowers. Habits are formed by our choices, and happiness or suffering is what we ourselves nurture. As the sun dips behind the mountains, the teacher and student sit on the temple veranda. Golden light bathes the world. The teacher says, life is always changing, but when you understand cause and effect, you will worry less, because you know that everything has its reasons. Whatever comes is the result of conditions coming together. Instead of asking why, learn to sow good conditions. Then the results will naturally be wholesome. The student remains silent, feeling a steady trust rise in his heart. It is not blind faith, but confidence rooted in understanding that every action and thought matters, that he can begin anew at any time. He sits quietly, takes a deep breath, feels life flowing through every cell, and gently smiles. That morning in the meditation hall, mist still draped the bamboo tips, and birds chirped in the quiet air. After the sitting meditation, the student quietly approached the teacher, his eyes holding unspoken questions. He placed his palms together respectfully and said, "Master, I often hear that everything arises from dependent origination, that nothing exists independently. But in life, when I face hardship, loss, or disappointment, my heart still feels heavy and cannot let go. How can I truly apply the teaching of dependent origination to live more peacefully amidst life's ups and downs?" The teacher smiled gently. He slowly picked up a yellow leaf that had fallen on the brick floor, held it before the student, and asked, "How do you see this leaf?" The student replied, "Master, the leaf has withered and is about to return to the earth." The teacher nodded. "That's right. The leaf does not fall for a single reason. It leaves the branch because of the wind blowing, the changing weather, and because the tree itself is ready to let go of leaves to nourish new buds. All things arise from countless conditions. That is dependent origination." After a pause, the teacher continued, "In the same way, your suffering does not come from one single cause. It is the result of many conditions. External circumstances, habitual thinking, emotions accumulated over time, and even the expectations you place on yourself and others. If you cling to a single cause to blame, you will not see the whole picture. When you understand that everything is only manifesting through converging causes and conditions, you will cling less and feel lighter. The student remained silent, feeling the teacher's words like a cool breeze in his mind. The teacher spoke again slowly. Remember, impermanence is also part of dependent origination. Whatever is born will change. Whatever comes together will fall apart. Just as clouds gather and then disperse, as waves rise and then fade, painful feelings will also pass. The point is not to drive them away, but to learn to face them calmly, knowing they too will dissolve. Like when you watch the rain fall, you don't need to wish it to stop. You simply know rain is rain, and when the sun's time comes, the sun will shine again. The teacher added a story to help the student understand. There was a farmer who grew rice. One year, too much rain flooded his fields. He cursed the sky and blamed fate. But a neighbor seized the opportunity to raise fish and ended up with a good harvest. The same circumstance, but different attitudes brought different results. Do you see? Suffering or peace depends on how you view and respond to the conditions present. The student bowed his head, realizing how often he had seen only the unfavorable side of things. The teacher gently reminded him, in modern life, we face enormous pressure. Work, family, relationships, even social media, all constantly generating streams of information, comparisons, and desires. If you forget impermanence, you will chase each change and lose your inner peace. But if you pause, breathe deeply, and remind yourself that all things exist through conditions, your heart will become steadier. The teacher suggested a small practice. Whenever you encounter something unpleasant, ask yourself 3 questions. First, where does this feeling come from? What conditions gave rise to it? Second, does it truly exist forever, or is it just a wave rising and passing? Third, what condition can you nurture right now to bring more calm to your heart? These 3 questions will help you observe instead of being swept away. Then the teacher invited the student to sit quietly for a few minutes. Both listened to the wind rustling through the bamboo, the birds chirping, and the steady rhythm of their own breathing. In that moment, the student realized that peace was not something distant, but the simple presence in this very moment. When he opened his eyes, he said softly, "I see more clearly now, Master. The suffering doesn't feel as heavy as before. Simply seeing it as a phenomenon born of conditions makes my mind steadier." The teacher smiled, placing his hand on the student's shoulder. "You've understood a part of it. Carry this insight into your daily life. When you go to work, when you face your family, when you read a piece of news online that unsettles you, remember that all things are like that leaf, appearing through conditions and passing away through conditions." The student nodded. On his way back to his room, he noticed beams of sunlight breaking through the trees, lighting the narrow earthen path. Each step felt lighter. He understood that he had taken another step on his path of practice, learning to see life through the lens of dependent origination and a heart that knows how to let go. On a quiet afternoon, as the sun softened behind the mountains and the temple bell echoed with the gentle breeze, the world seemed to pause. After sweeping the courtyard, the student quietly sat beside the teacher, a trace of sadness lingering in his eyes. He said, "Master, I understand that all things are impermanent, that suffering is just part of the flow of dependent origination. But still, I often find myself swept away by emotions, especially when someone offends or upsets me. I know I should let go, yet my heart feels tight." The teacher gazed toward the foot of the mountain, where clouds were changing color in the sunset, and spoke slowly. "Do you remember the story of the 2 monks and the woman by the river? One monk carried her across without hesitation, then let go as soon as he set her down. But the other kept his discomfort in his heart the entire way. The difference wasn't in the action, but in the mind. One let go immediately, the other carried it along. You are the same. Suffering lasts only when you carry it. If you release it, it will vanish like a drop of water falling to the earth. The student pondered. The teacher continued. Long ago, a man insulted the Buddha. The Buddha listened quietly, without reacting. When the man finished, the Buddha asked, "If someone offers a gift, but we do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man replied, "Of course, to the giver." The Buddha smiled. In the same way, if I do not accept your insults, they remain with you. Do you see? Peace lies in knowing you have the power not to accept what you need not keep. The student bowed his head, realizing how often he had rushed to hold on to resentment. The teacher went on. In modern life, this is even clearer. Social media overflows with praise and criticism. If you let your mind hang exposed, easily swayed, a single comment can cost you sleep. But if you know yourself as merely a passerby, seeing and then letting go, your heart remains light. Praise and blame are just breezes through the forest. They cannot shake the mountains. The teacher picked up a small pebble and dropped it into a bowl of clear water. The pebble sank, and the ripples soon settled. He said, "A peaceful mind is like this. If you keep mindfulness, each impact is only a ripple that fades. But if you keep stirring, the water will never be still." The student asked, "Master, what can I do to practice letting go in daily life?" The teacher replied, 3 simple steps. First, pause and take a deep breath to recognize the emotion instead of reacting immediately. Second, look deeply and see that the feeling didn't arise on its own, but from causes and conditions. Third, choose to nurture a wholesome condition, a kind word, a gentle act, or simply silence to preserve harmony. Each time you practice this, you plant a seed of peace within yourself. The teacher added, "Do not expect letting go to mean dropping everything at once. It is like releasing your grip on a rope, one finger at a time. Gradually, you will see your hand open, and freedom will come from there. Each day, you can choose one small thing to release, one resentment not to hold, one harsh word not to return. Little by little, your heart will open wider." As twilight descended, the last light of day spread gold across the temple roof. The student felt his heart lighten, as if a new space had opened in his chest. He quietly understood that letting go is not forced effort, but an art of living. When we know how to let go at the right moment, we truly experience freedom. And that freedom is not given by anyone. It is created by ourselves through mindfulness and wisdom. Night had fallen, and the temple lay beneath a blanket of stillness, with only the crickets singing beneath the leaves. After the evening meditation, still full of thoughts, the student sought out the teacher. He bowed and said, "Master, my mind often feels like a lake before the wind, restless and stirred, sometimes worried about work, sometimes unsettled by family matters. I hear your teachings on letting go and dependent origination, but applying them in daily life feels so difficult. How can I keep calm amidst the chaos of the world?" The teacher smiled gently, poured another cup of warm tea, and softly replied, "Do you see the moon above? Even when clouds cover it or waves ripple on the lake, the moon remains whole. Your mind is the same. Its nature is bright and still. It is only obscured by passing clouds of illusion and waves of emotion. Practice is learning to recognize that clouds are just clouds and waves are just waves. You don't need to drive them away. Just patiently see that the moon is always there." The student listened intently. The teacher continued, "In modern life, pressures come from many sides. Work to keep, families to care for, relationships to navigate. But the essential thing is not to erase all circumstances. It is to nurture your way of seeing. If you understand things as dependent origination, You will blame yourself and others less. Worry is just a condition. It comes and goes. Anger is just a condition. It arises and fades. They do not define who you are. They are like passing guests. The teacher shared, "Once a man came to the Buddha, complaining that life held too much suffering. The Buddha said, 'I cannot stop the wind from blowing, but I can show you how to build a shelter.' You see, we cannot control all external events, but we can learn to shield our minds with mindfulness. When mindfulness is present, you know when worry arrives. You know when anger rises. That knowing is like a lamp. The darkness can no longer overpower you." The student asked, "But Master, sometimes I know I am angry, and yet the anger does not stop. I feel powerless." The teacher nodded. "Yes, knowing does not mean it will disappear at once, but knowing is the first and most vital step. It's like realizing you're holding a stone. At first, your hand may remain stiff, unable to release it, but once you've seen it, you have the chance to put it down. If you don't see it, you might carry it your whole life. So instead of expecting anger to vanish immediately, patiently observe it. Feel the heat in your chest, the clenching of your fist, the quickening of your breath. Breathe with it without pushing it away, and it will dissolve on its own." The teacher gave an example. At work, when a colleague doesn't meet your expectations, you flare up. But if you pause to breathe and remind yourself, they too are under pressure shaped by conditions, your anger eases. In family life, when parents or children disobey, you grow upset. But if you see that they too are driven by habits and patterns, your heart will expand with a little more understanding and compassion. It is understanding and compassion that quench the fire of anger. The night breeze gently stirred, making the oil lamp flicker. The teacher spoke slowly. Practice is not about becoming a flawless person who never feels anger or worry. Practice is holding these emotions in the light of mindfulness, like a mother holding her crying child. Do not drive them away or punish yourself. Just hold them quietly and let them transform. Every feeling will pass. What remains is the peace you've cultivated through each breath and each moment of understanding. The student felt a gentle lightness rising within. He understood that practice was not an escape from life, but a way to live more fully in every moment amid its ups and downs. Simply pausing each day to breathe, to see things as dependent origination, to remember that his mind was as bright as the moon. This was already a step further on the path of awakening. Morning in the temple began with the ringing bell, its sound spreading through the mountains and forests as if awakening the earth itself. Sitting in the meditation hall, the student still reflected on the teacher's words from the night before. His mind felt a little clearer, yet many questions remained. After the morning practice, he approached the teacher and bowed. "Master, I understand that emotions are only passing guests, that anger and worry arise from conditions. But I wonder, if I let go of everything, will I become indifferent without feeling or responsibility for my loved ones and my life?" The teacher looked at him, eyes kind but bright. "The letting go I speak of is not coldness or indifference. In Buddhism, letting go means releasing attachment, not abandoning care. Imagine holding a burning coal. Letting go means dropping it, not abandoning the whole world. Letting go frees you to love more fully, to live more responsibly, not less." The teacher told a story. Long ago, two monks walked a muddy road and met a young woman unable to cross a wide puddle. One monk immediately carried her across and continued walking. By evening, the other monk was still reproaching him. "Why did you carry her? We are monks." The first replied, "I put her down on the other side hours ago. Why are you still carrying her in your heart?" You see, letting go is like that. Release what is unnecessary, so your heart remains light. The student nodded thoughtfully, but asked again, "I understand in theory, but when facing family matters or work, worries don't seem so easy to set down." The teacher spoke slowly. Modern people are often trapped between two extremes, either clinging too tightly or neglecting completely. The Buddha's letting go is the middle way, holding responsibility and freedom together. We care for loved ones and do our work well, but we do not let these things become chains around our hearts. We love, but love with clarity. We act, but act in freedom. The teacher gave an example. Suppose a loved one is gravely ill. If you cling to despair and cry hopelessly, you add suffering to both yourself and them. But if you let go of the idea that things must go as I wish, you will have the calm to care for them and bring them peace. That is true compassion. The student stayed silent for a long time. He realized he had often confused love with holding on and responsibility with tension. Now he understood. Love does not mean binding. It means opening, allowing things to be as they are. The teacher continued, "There is a vital principle you should remember, non-self. Nothing has a fixed I. When you understand non-self, you see that letting go is not loss, but a return to truth. When you cling to the notion of me, you fear loss and change. But when you see clearly that nothing belongs to you forever, you feel lighter. Letting go is no longer forced. It becomes as natural as a leaf falling when its season comes." The teacher asked, "Do you remember the lesson of the river? The river keeps flowing and no drop of water is ever the same. Your body and mind are like that, always changing moment by moment. Letting go is to move with that change, not clinging to what has passed, nor forcing what has yet to come." The student bowed his head, a deep gratitude arising in his heart. He understood that letting go does not distance him from life. It is the way to live more deeply, to love more fully without suffering. The teacher smiled kindly, poured more tea, and said, "Begin with small things. When you're angry, breathe and let go a little. When you're worried, breathe and release some of the worry. When you love, love with understanding. Day by day, you will see your mind, like the moon, shine ever brighter, even if clouds still sometimes gather." In the quiet of the monastery, the student felt a sense of peace spreading through his body and mind. He knew he was still on a long journey, but each step, each breath had already become a guiding light. One afternoon, after finishing his practice, the student approached the teacher, eyes full of contemplation. He sat down, placed his palms together, and said, "Master, I have been practicing letting go as you taught. My heart feels lighter, but sometimes I fall into a feeling of emptiness. I'm afraid that if I let go of everything, I might lose myself." The teacher smiled gently, his eyes shining with understanding. "My child, letting go does not mean disappearing. Letting go means releasing attachment, removing the chains that bind your mind. When you set down a heavy burden, you do not cease to exist. On the contrary, you become freer. That freedom allows you to live more deeply and to love more fully." The teacher slowly told a story. Long ago, there was a monk living in the forest. He owned only a robe, an alms bowl, and a staff. One day, a thief slipped into his hut. Seeing nothing of value except the bowl, the monk handed it to him, saying, "You've come all this way. Do not leave empty-handed." The thief, astonished, took the bowl and fled. That night, the monk sat under the moonlight, gazing at the mountains, and whispered, "If only I could give him this moonlight as well." You see, unbound by possessions, he was already rich within. The student was silent for a while, then asked, "But Master, in daily life, I still face so many pressures. Work, family, endless worries. If I keep letting go, am I not avoiding responsibility?" The teacher shook his head. Letting go is not avoidance. Avoidance is born of fear. Letting go is born of wisdom. You can fulfill your responsibilities and still keep your heart at peace. Imagine yourself as a boatman. You must hold the oar firmly to guide the boat. But if you keep clinging to the oar after reaching the shore, you will only tire yourself unnecessarily. Knowing when to hold and when to release, that is, letting go. He paused, then continued. Do you remember the story of the finger pointing to the moon? Teachings, scriptures, and practices are the finger. The truth is the moon. If you cling to the finger, you will miss the moon's light. In the same way, responsibilities, love, and work. If you cling to their forms, you bind yourself. But if you understand their essence, you can fulfill them and still remain free. The student reflected and softly said, Master, I am often swayed by praise and criticism. When praised, I am happy. When criticized, I am sad. I know this makes my mind restless, yet it is hard to let go. The teacher nodded. That is natural. Everyone longs for recognition, but remember the Buddha's words. Like a solid rock unmoved by the wind, the wise remain undisturbed by praise or blame. Praise and blame are only passing winds. If your mind is like a blade of grass, it will sway with every breeze. But if your mind is like a rock, it will remain firm. You don't need to despise praise or blame. Just see clearly their impermanent, unreal nature. Then you will feel lighter. The teacher gave a familiar example. Imagine one day you post something good and meaningful. Some will praise it, some will criticize it. If you chase after praise and blame, you'll lose your peace. But if you know your intention was to plant wholesome seeds, then their words lose their weight. Simply ask yourself, does this action sow a good seed in my heart and in others? If it does, then continue, regardless of praise or blame. The student smiled faintly, his heart calming. He realized that the root of his restlessness lay in clinging to what was beyond his control. Letting go here meant returning to what he could guide, his intention, his heart, his mindfulness. The teacher added, in modern life, you will face countless influences from social media, work, and relationships. Anyone can praise, criticize, or judge. If you cannot let go, you'll be pulled endlessly. But if you keep your mind clear, you will be like someone walking calmly through a crowded market while holding an untouched bowl of alms. No noise can steal your inner quiet. The teacher offered further guidance. Each day, spend a few minutes practicing release. Sit quietly, breathe slowly, and ask yourself, what am I clinging to today? A worry, an anger, a criticism? Picture yourself opening your hand and setting it down. You will feel your heart grow lighter. The student bowed his head in silent gratitude. He understood that letting go did not make him irresponsible or unfeeling. It was the way to love more deeply and to live more fully. In the radiant glow of the evening outside the veranda, teacher and student sat quietly, sipping tea. Each sip seemed to dissolve into the heart, leaving a cool, gentle fragrance. The student knew that the path of practice was still long, but with each relaxed step, he was already living freely, here and now. Settling into the breath, we realize the path of practice is not somewhere far away. It is right here, in every ordinary moment, when we listen, when we let go, when we nurture peace within the heart. The lessons of today are not just for hearing, but for living, day by day, step by step, as a source of light to guide our lives. If these reflections have brought you peace and insight, please like and subscribe to Dharma in Motion. Your presence is the encouragement that helps us continue sowing seeds of wisdom and compassion, so that more people may find a path of peace in a world full of change. May you have a truly peaceful night and a bright, clear heart. See you again in the next Dharma Talks on Dharma in Motion. The night had grown late, and the monastery was wrapped in silence. The wind whispered through the pines, and the chirping of insects played like a lullaby, easing the soul into stillness. The student sat on the veranda, his mind still troubled. When the teacher stepped outside, the moonlight cast shadows on the ground. Bowing deeply, the student said, "Master, the more I study, the more I see my mind still full of afflictions. I have learned to let go of many things, yet I am often swept away by desire and fear. At times I feel too weak to face my own mind." The teacher sat beside him, his kind eyes resting on the student. "My child, the fact that you see your mind's afflictions is already a great step forward. Many live their whole lives without realizing they are driven by greed, anger, or fear. Recognizing your afflictions is the light shining into the darkness. Do not fear it. Be patient. Observe gently, and afflictions, like drifting clouds, cannot hide the sky forever." The teacher spoke slowly. "Long ago there was a Zen master living in seclusion in the mountains. A man came to him and said, 'Master, I have practiced for years, yet my mind is not at peace. I am anxious, fearful, and powerless before life's flow.' The master said nothing at first, but handed him a glass of muddy water. He said, 'Leave this glass still on the table.' After a while, the dirt settled and the water cleared. The master smiled. 'Your mind is the same. When you stop stirring it with worry, fear, or desire, it will naturally become clear. No force is needed, just stillness and observation.'" The student listened intently, comforted by the story. He asked, "But Master, in modern life I cannot avoid big waves. Work pressure, family responsibilities, complicated relationships. How can I keep my mind as still as that forest water?" The teacher nodded, his gaze distant. "Today, human life is like a city lake, filled with noise and turbulence. But even amid the noise, if you return to your breath, you will find a quiet space within. You need not go anywhere. Just one mindful breath is enough to pause amid life's rush. The breath is the anchor that steadies your mind, so that no matter how strong the waves, you are not swept away." He continued, "When you face greed, look directly at it and ask, 'Will this truly bring lasting peace?' Seeing the fragility of desire, you will loosen its grip. When anger rises, stop and take 3 deep breaths. You will see anger is like fire. Feed it and it grows. Starve it and it fades. When fear arises, place your hand on your chest and remind yourself, 'I am alive. I am still breathing.' Returning to the life within this moment will give you strength to pass through fear." The student nodded gently, his eyes brightening. He realized afflictions were not enemies to destroy, but guests that come and go. Softly he said, "Master, so I don't need to fight. I only need to see and understand." The teacher smiled. "Exactly. The Buddha taught that the mind is like the sky, and afflictions are like clouds. Clouds may obscure the sun, but the sky's nature has never disappeared. When you understand this, you will not despair when clouds gather. You need only be patient, for clouds are born to come and go." The teacher paused, poured tea for his student, and added, "In modern society, many people chase success, status, and wealth, yet they forget the peace within. They believe happiness lies in what they can achieve, but the more they chase, the more restless their hearts become. In truth, happiness comes from stopping, recognizing what you already have, and living fully in the present moment." The student suddenly remembered his busy city days. He had often raced through work thinking he must finish another project or earn more money before he could be happy. But now he saw clearly, peace is not somewhere ahead, but right here, in a sip of tea, in the sound of the wind, in a shared smile with a friend. The teacher looked at him, his voice warm. The path of practice is not to run away from life, but to learn to live mindfully within it. When you realize that true happiness comes from dwelling in the present, you will no longer be swept away by the clouds of greed, anger, or delusion. You will see the sky's clarity even when the clouds remain. The student bowed in gratitude. In his heart, a steadfast trust began to bloom. Letting go is not about losing, it is about finding again the vast sky within. The next morning, sunlight filtered gently through the leaves and onto the monastery's courtyard. The student awoke after a deep sleep, still hearing the echoes of the teacher's words from the night before. Stepping outside, he saw the teacher leisurely sweeping leaves. Each movement was slow and unhurried, as if every stroke of the broom was a breath, a step in mindfulness. He watched for a while, then approached and bowed. "Master, watching you sweep leaves feels so serene. But honestly, in my daily life, whenever I do something, I'm always thinking about the result. Sweeping the yard, I think of when it will be clean. Working, I long for the job to be done. Studying, I only hope for achievements. I rarely just do something without expecting anything." The teacher paused and smiled. "You've touched on something essential in practice, the mind that craves results. We often live in expectation, always looking to the future, thinking we'll only be happy when we achieve something. But true happiness lies in being fully present in each moment. Sweeping leaves isn't just for a clean yard, it's so you can truly see each leaf, hear the broom touch the earth, and feel your own breath. When you do something with a settled mind, the action itself becomes meditation, and you'll find peace within it." The teacher shared a story. There was a Zen master who sat by the window each morning drinking tea. A student asked, "Master, every morning you do the same thing. Doesn't it bore you? Don't you wish for something new?" The Zen master smiled. "It's precisely because every morning is the same that I find freshness. Today is not yesterday, and today's tea is not yesterday's tea. When you are truly present, everything is new and never repeats." Hearing this, the student remembered his own city life, days that had seemed dull and repetitive. Now he understood. The repetition was not in life, but in a mind that wasn't present. He bowed and said, "I understand now, Master. If I can live fully with each small task, even washing dishes or going to the market can become a source of peace." The teacher nodded. "That's right. Practice is not only sitting in meditation halls, it's bringing mindfulness into every small action. Walking, standing, lying down, sitting, speaking, behaving. Each is an opportunity to practice. Whenever you are truly present, afflictions cannot control you. You will see life flowing, wondrous, and pure." He paused, then continued. "But remember, mindfulness is not forcing yourself to pay attention. It is returning gently. If you force it, your mind will grow weary. Let your awareness arise naturally, like the moonlight shining on a still lake. Simply nurture a friendly attitude toward yourself, and mindfulness will grow like a seed meeting the rain." The student asked, "Master, what if I'm working and my mind is swept away by worries? How can I return?" The teacher smiled softly. "It's all right. Every time you notice your mind has wandered, that moment of noticing is already a return. Don't scold yourself. Just smile, take a deep breath, and continue. Like when you sit in meditation, if your mind strays, you gently bring it back to the breath. Don't lose faith because of distraction. What matters is not how long you stay, but how many times you patiently return." The teacher shared another story. A student once complained, "Master, when I meditate, my mind is always restless. Perhaps I have no aptitude for practice." The master asked, "When you get lost on the road, how many times do you find your way back?" The student replied, "Many times." The master smiled. "Then you are already practicing. Every return is a step forward." Hearing this, the student's heart lit up. He realized the path was not instant perfection, but continual returning, and that returning itself was happiness. The teacher's voice grew warm. Remember, mindfulness is not to shield you from all suffering, but to teach you to walk through suffering with a calm heart. Like someone walking in the rain, you cannot stop the rain from falling, but you can choose to walk unhurried without complaint. Live this way and you'll see every moment is precious, whether joyful or sorrowful. The student bowed gratefully. He now saw that the teacher's words were not lofty theory, but a way of living. By bringing practice into every breath and every step, he could live peacefully amid life's turbulence. That afternoon, white clouds blanketed the sky, and a gentle wind whispered through the bamboo like the earth murmuring secrets. The student sat on the veranda, eyes gazing into the distance, a new question stirring in his heart. When the teacher approached, he bowed and asked, "Master, I have learned about mindfulness and returning to each moment. But I still wonder, why is it that even when I recognize an emotion, it doesn't disappear right away? Often the pain lingers even though I know it is impermanent." The teacher was silent for a moment, his eyes kind as he looked at the student, then replied slowly, "You think suffering will vanish the instant you notice it, but you forget that emotions are like clouds. Some clouds drift by quickly, but others are heavy, full of moisture, and need time to dissolve. Recognizing does not mean pushing away. It means opening your arms to hold them, giving emotions the space to fade on their own. The more you resist, the more tightly they cling. But when you gently acknowledge them, your breath becomes a cool breeze, slowly easing the heaviness within." The teacher nodded gently. "That's right. When anger arises, the body can feel aflame, the head hot, the heart pounding, breath ragged. But remember the dry leaf in my palm. If the wind blows, it will be carried away. Strong emotions are like that wind. They can sweep you off if you cling to them. But if you have an anchor, you will not be swept away. Your breath is that anchor. When anger surges, don't analyze or suppress it. Just breathe slowly. Place your attention on your breath as a rower holds firmly to the oar in a swift current. Anger is like a wave. It will settle on its own. If you follow it blindly, you will splinter like a small boat without a rudder." The teacher paused, then shared an ancient story. A man once asked the Buddha how to restrain anger. The Buddha said, "If someone brings a gift, but the other does not accept it, to whom does it belong?" The man answered, "To the giver." The Buddha replied, "So too, when someone offers you anger but you do not accept it, it remains with them." This teaching also applies to yourself. When anger arises within, you don't have to let it become your master. Simply acknowledge its presence without giving it power. The student sat silently, remembering arguments with friends and colleagues, moments when the fire of anger had burned bridges. If only he had paused, had breathed, things might have turned out differently. He sighed. "I understand, Master, but sometimes it still feels too hard. In today's world, work pressure, online judgments, competition everywhere, it's like unending winds shaking my heart. How can I keep calm amidst it all?" The teacher's eyes were full of empathy. "My child, the ocean always has waves, but if you dive deep beneath the surface, you will find a still space. Your mind is the same. If you live only on the surface, you will always be tossed by praise and blame, gain and loss. But with practice, with mindfulness, you will touch that deep stillness where the world's noise cannot reach. That is your true refuge." He pointed to the lotus pond in the temple garden, where white blossoms rose pure from dark mud. "Look at the lotus. It does not despise the mud, for the mud nourishes it. But as it rises, it offers a pure fragrance. A practitioner is the same, not fleeing the world's muddy struggles, but learning to live among them without being stained. When your heart is clear, even amid chaos, You will bloom like the lotus, smiling in peace." The student gazed at the lotus, deeply moved. He realized that peace is not found by escaping turmoil, but by staying steady within it. The teacher continued, "Remember, no path to happiness avoids difficulty. Suffering itself is the material that helps us grow. When you look at suffering with mindful eyes, it becomes your teacher. Sadness teaches you to treasure joy. Loss teaches you to cherish what remains. Even anger, when observed with awareness, will teach you to understand yourself more deeply." The student bowed his head, voice trembling. "Master, I am deeply grateful to you. I feel as if I'm learning to befriend my emotions instead of seeing them as enemies." The teacher nodded kindly. "Yes, my child. When you learn to befriend your emotions, every moment of life becomes a lesson. Then you will no longer fear upheavals because you know your mind has a refuge." Morning sunlight stretched across the monastery courtyard, highlighting dewdrops still clinging to the leaves. Walking with his master along a narrow garden path, the student felt a new concern stirring in his heart. "Master," he said, "there's still something I worry about. As I practice, I feel less irritable and angry. But I'm afraid I might become indifferent, not reacting to injustice or suffering in the world. Wouldn't that be avoidance or apathy?" The master smiled and stopped beneath an old Bodhi tree. "You think that because you're confusing indifference with non-anger. An indifferent person turns away from others' pain. But one who practices non-anger sees that pain even more clearly, and from it arises compassion. Mindfulness and calm do not make you cold. They help you see with greater clarity." The student looked surprised. "But if I don't feel anger at injustice, will I still have the motivation to act?" The teacher slowly picked up a dry branch and tossed it into the fire. "See how the flame leaps up? Anger is like that. It gives you energy instantly, but it also burns you from within. Compassion is different. It's like glowing embers, steady, enduring, not flaring wildly, but sustaining warmth for a long time. When you act from anger, you can harm yourself and others. When you act from compassion, you find a lasting way to transform injustice." The master told a story. Once the Buddha saw a monk being cursed and driven away by villagers. He did not become angry. Instead, he asked them, "If someone brings you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong?" The villagers replied, "To us." The Buddha smiled. "So it is with insults. If I do not accept them, they remain with you." This attitude is not apathy. It is wise action that stops hatred from spreading. The student bowed, clarity dawning in his heart. He realized that stillness was not withdrawal from life, but a way to step into it with a lucid mind. The teacher continued, "Do not fear becoming numb. Practicing mindfulness and releasing anger only makes you more open. You will see others' pain more clearly, but instead of being swept away, you'll be able to help through understanding. You will know when to act, and you will act with wisdom, not impulse." To illustrate, the teacher pointed to a row of vegetables in the garden. "See, when pests harm the greens, a gardener doesn't destroy the whole bed or walk away. They watch carefully, find the cause, and gently remove the pests. A wise person is the same. When they see injustice, they don't lash out with rage, but use compassion and patience to heal." The student sat in silence, the image of the vegetable bed and the gardener etched deeply in his mind. He realized that actions driven by anger often leave wounds, whereas actions born of compassion are like tending a garden, patient and steady until blossoms bloom. The master continued, "In today's world, many things can ignite your anger. A negative comment online, news of injustice, or a careless remark. But instead of reacting immediately, You can breathe, pause for a moment, and look at what is pushing you to react. You'll see that most impulsive anger comes from a wounded ego. When you see that clearly, your anger weakens, making room for wisdom and compassion. The student listened, his fear of becoming indifferent slowly fading. He understood that peace does not distance him from the world. It allows him to live within it more kindly and effectively. Later, as the sunlight softened and birds flew back to their nests, teacher and student sat quietly on the temple porch. Though the air was still, a new resolve stirred in the student's heart. His path was not about avoidance, but about stepping into life with a bright mind and compassion as his torch. In the monastery's quiet courtyard, golden light streamed through tall bamboo, the wind whispering like nature's own voice. The student, seated beneath the eaves, stared into the distance, still wrestling with unanswered questions. Despite hearing teachings on letting go, impermanence, and mindfulness, he found himself easily swept into cycles of suffering, anger, and worry when facing real-life challenges. Seeing the master approach, he bowed and asked hesitantly, "Master, I understand that practicing mindfulness and releasing greed, anger, and delusion brings peace, but sometimes it feels impossible. My life is full of complex relationships, heavy workloads, and societal pressure. How can I apply what I've learned to such a busy life?" The master's gaze was warm as he sat beside him. After a pause, he said softly, "Child, practice is not about abandoning life. It is about living within it with a clear mind. If you sit quietly on a mountaintop far from the world, your calm may not be truly stable. Only when you walk through life's storms and still keep your inner balance do you touch deep practice." He told a story. A famous Zen master known for his insight would leave meditation to sell vegetables in the market. People asked, "Why not remain in the temple away from the bustle?" The master laughed, "If my mind is steady, the market is also a meditation hall. If my mind is restless, even the meditation hall is no different from the market." Hearing this, the student felt awakened. He realized he had mistaken stillness for external quiet, forgetting that true peace begins within. The master continued, "You say work and relationships exhaust you, but have you ever paused to observe your own reactions? Often it is not the world itself, but our clinging worries and expectations that tire us. Work alone does not make you suffer. It's the demands you attach to it. When someone says something unpleasant, it is not the words themselves, but your wounded ego that causes anger." To illustrate, he offered a simple example. Imagine you're walking and a stranger shouts something harsh. If you hold on to it as an insult, you'll be angry all day. But if you see it as just a sound passing by, perhaps born from their own frustration and unrelated to you, it dissolves instantly, leaving no trace. Like mud thrown into the air, without anything to cling to, it falls harmlessly to the ground. The student nodded, yet worry still flickered in his eyes. "Master, I understand the theory, but in reality, when I'm face to face with challenges, I still find it hard to stay calm. Many times I react out of habit and regret it afterward." The master smiled. "That is natural. Practice is not about instantly becoming perfect. It is about gradually recognizing your habits and slowly transforming them. When you slip and react, don't blame yourself. Simply notice, learn from it, and you will be more mindful next time. Every stumble is an opportunity to rise stronger." He offered an example. Think of pottery. A novice potter breaks many pieces at first, but doesn't quit. Through mistakes, they eventually create a perfect vessel. Likewise, every time you fail to keep your peace, you gain a precious lesson. What matters is whether you have patience. To help him practice, the master gave a simple method. When you feel your mind wavering, pause and take 3 deep breaths. Just 3 breaths are enough to pull you out of automatic reaction. Then ask yourself 3 questions. What am I feeling? Where does this feeling come from? What do I wish to nurture instead of it? These questions help you look at the root rather than being swept along the surface. The student closed his eyes, followed the breathing, and then spoke softly. I feel lighter. Truly, just 3 breaths have changed how I see things. The master nodded. That is the power of mindfulness. It's like when you're running with a crowd. If you stop for a moment, you'll see more paths than just the one you're being pushed toward. He added, in today's society, people think success comes from doing more and faster. But the Buddha teaches that sometimes true success comes from knowing when to pause and when to let go. If you keep piling burdens on your shoulders, you'll exhaust yourself. But if you learn to set down what isn't necessary, you'll go farther and more lightly. The student sat quietly for a while, then whispered, I understand now, Master. Joy doesn't come from changing circumstances, but from changing how I receive and respond. When my mind is at peace, everywhere becomes a meditation hall. The master's gentle smile deepened. Exactly. Remember, every moment can be a meditation practice. When you wash dishes, wash with a peaceful heart. When you listen to someone, listen with a clear mind. When you work with focus and kindness. If you live this way, every moment is practice. You need not search elsewhere. As dusk fell and the temple bell rang long and clear, the student felt his worries dissolve. Gratitude swelled within him, for his teacher, for the path, and for life itself, with its trials and its boundless opportunities to practice. He bowed, palms together. I will remember your words, Master. From now on, I will breathe, pause, and let go. I will make each day a meditation hall on the path to peace. The master nodded gently, his distant yet warm gaze softening. Kon chikan jitung buok, kong voi vang, nuhat gyong trong longjat, chikan juduyen thi no sene mam, lon len va tro hua, tam kong chung vei, chikan kon kien han nuoi duong bang shan hniem, tri tue va tu bi, thi mot ngai nao jo, hoa an laksi tu no trong kon. That afternoon, the sky faded into pale violet. The temple bell rang far and long, like the breathing of the earth itself. The student sat quietly on the stone steps beneath the eaves, watching birds return to their nests. His heart was full of mixed feelings. Although he had learned to let go of some daily worries, memories of past mistakes still haunted him. Moments of anger that hurt loved ones, wrong decisions at work that weighed heavily on his chest. Seeing the master approach, he bowed deeply. Master, there is still a burden in my heart. I can release the present, but the past is hard to let go of. At times, I blame myself so much, as if I could never wash away my mistakes. How can I free myself from this torment? The master smiled kindly, sitting down beside him. My child, what causes you pain is not the past itself, but your attachment to its memory. The past has already passed. It exists only as traces in your mind. It is your clinging and self-punishment that prolong the suffering. Remember, the Buddha taught that all things are impermanent, even mistakes. The real question is whether you have learned from them. He shared a story. There was once a young monk who, while crossing a river, slipped and dropped the temple's precious bowl into the water. Terrified, he dared not return, standing frozen on the riverbank. When his teacher found him, the monk wept. I have committed a grave offense. I am unworthy to remain at the temple. The teacher simply smiled. The bowl has already sunk to the bottom. Will you stand here crying your whole life to pull it back up? Or will you return to the temple to continue learning the way? Hearing this, the young monk awakened. What mattered was not the lost bowl, but the lesson of mindfulness and care. that would guide him forward. The student felt some weight lift from his heart. He asked softly, "Then, Master, how do I face my mistakes without self-torment?" The Master nodded. "First, look upon your mistakes with compassion, like a mother watching her child stumble. When you fall, you need not despise yourself. You need only rise, brush off the dust, and walk on. True remorse is not self-punishment. It is recognizing what was wrong and resolving not to repeat it. Excessive self-blame only traps you in despair. Compassion for yourself opens the way to growth." Pointing to the flowing river nearby, he added, "Do you see the river? It flows endlessly, never returning as it was. Life is the same. Each moment passes and does not come back. To cling to the past is like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips away." The student closed his eyes and drew a deep breath. He realized he had been like one trying to grasp the river, exhausting himself. The Master continued, "View your mistakes as compost in a garden. At first, it is foul and unpleasant, but used wisely, it nourishes flowers and fruit. Painful memories, when learned from, become the soil for your wisdom. Without mud, there is no lotus. The path of practice is not to erase the past, but to transform it into insight." The student opened his eyes, his gaze brightened. "I understand now, Master. Instead of blaming myself, I need to learn to thank the stumbles that taught me to grow." The Master gently nodded. "That's right. And one more thing, you must forgive yourself. Forgiveness is not excusing mistakes, it is ending the self-punishment. When you forgive yourself, you truly open your heart to live fully in the present." The student's eyes glistened. "But sometimes I find it hard to forgive. The voice in my head keeps repeating that I am unworthy." The Master paused thoughtfully, then said, "That voice is an old habit energy. It is not you. It's just the mind's pattern. When it appears, smile and silently say, 'I hear you, but now I choose another path.' Remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the one who is aware of those thoughts." The Master shared another story of the Buddha. After enlightenment, he still faced tempting phantoms and the voices of Mara, but instead of fighting, he simply smiled, touched the earth, and said, "I have awakened." At that moment, all temptations dissolved. Likewise, you do not need to fight those voices. Just recognize them and return to your breath, to presence. The student exhaled in relief, clarity dawning in his heart. He asked, "Master, what can I do specifically to release the burden of the past?" The Master replied, "Each day set aside a few minutes to sit quietly, close your eyes and breathe slowly. When a painful memory appears, do not chase it away or sink into it. Just watch it as if you were standing on the riverbank, watching the water flow. You may whisper, 'I see you. You are only a memory. I am no longer you.' Repeat this many times and you will see that memory lose its power." Then the Master offered another exercise. Write down on paper the mistakes you still regret. After writing, read them again and recognize that they are the past. Then you can burn the paper as a ritual of letting go. The flame will show you that everything can be transformed. The student listened, feeling lighter than ever. He bowed in gratitude. "I will remember. I will practice forgiveness, practice turning mud into lotus. I will no longer be a prisoner of the past." The Master placed his hand on the student's shoulder, eyes full of kindness. "Very good. Walk step by step, gently and patiently. Each time you choose forgiveness, you plant a new seed of freedom, and little by little the garden of your heart will be filled with blossoms of peace." As night fell, a crescent moon appeared, casting its reflection on the gentle river. The student sat quietly, feeling an unprecedented peace. He knew the past was no longer a chain, but a lesson to walk more firmly ahead. That night, after the meditation session, the student stepped into the temple courtyard. The full moon bathed the old tiles and the lotus pond in a soft glow. He gazed at the moon, his mind settling, yet a vague worry lingered. He said to the master as they sat beneath the Bodhi tree, "Master, I have learned to let go of the past, but I find the future frightening. I fear failure at work, fear not being able to carry family burdens, fear sudden illness. It seems I am always haunted by fear of the future." The master nodded slowly. "You are not the only one carrying that worry. Every human being has faced fear about what has not yet come. But remember, the future has never truly existed. It is only thoughts appearing in the present moment. The farther you project your mind, the farther you drift from life as it is right now." The student remained silent, a flicker of doubt in his eyes. The master told a story. Long ago, a man wandered into the forest and was suddenly chased by a tiger. He fled and slipped over a cliff. As he was about to fall, he managed to grab a vine. Below him yawned a deep ravine. Above him, the tiger growled. In that moment, he saw a cluster of ripe strawberries beside him. He reached out, picked one, placed it in his mouth, and smiled. "Oh, how sweet!" The master paused, then looked at the student. "Do you see?" The danger was still there, but the present moment contained happiness. The future had not arrived, but the present was always real. Only when you live fully in this moment can you find the strength to face anything. The student thought for a while and said, "But master, if I don't worry, does that mean I'll become irresponsible? If I don't prepare for the future, won't I fall into hardship?" The master smiled. "There is a difference between worrying and preparing. Worrying is imagining countless misfortunes and exhausting your mind. Preparing is acting mindfully in the present to create good conditions for the future. When you plant a grain of rice today, you don't need to stay up all night worrying whether it will sprout. You simply care for the soil, water it, and keep it warm. The sprouting is a natural law. Worrying does not make the seed grow faster. It only makes your heart restless." The student smiled faintly, feeling the difference clearly. The master continued, "In the Buddha's teachings, there is a word called mindfulness. To live mindfully means to know what you are doing, thinking, and feeling right now. When you wash dishes, know you are washing dishes. Don't let your mind wander to tomorrow. When you eat, savor each bite instead of thinking about unfinished work. Live fully in each moment and you will see the power of the present surpasses all futile worries about the future." The student sighed. "I realize that almost my whole life I've been chasing the shadow of tomorrow. But master, if one day I face great adversity, how will I have the strength to endure it?" The master gently smiled. "Do you remember the lesson of impermanence? Everything changes. No pain lasts forever and no happiness is unchanging. When you understand impermanence, you will see there is no need to be afraid. Even suffering has its end. Instead of wasting energy predicting every storm, train your inner strength. A peaceful mind is a sturdy boat that can carry you through any wave." The student stayed silent for a long moment, then asked, "Master, how can I make my mind more steadfast?" The master looked up at the moon, his voice calm. "Begin with your breath. Each day, spend a few minutes breathing slowly, fully aware of your inhalation and exhalation. The breath is the bridge that connects you to the present moment. When your mind panics, return to your breath. You will gradually feel peace returning." The master further taught, "You can practice 3 questions whenever you feel worried. First, is what you fear certain to happen? If not, let it go. Second, if it might happen, what can you do right now to prepare? If something can be done, take action. Third, if nothing can be done, then release it with trust that all phenomena follow dependent origination. Your worry only exhausts you. It cannot change the outcome." Hearing this, the student's eyes lit up. He bowed gratefully. I will remember these 3 questions. They are like a lantern lighting my way through the darkness of fear. The master smiled. Remember, no one can remove all uncertainties from life, but anyone can learn to walk through uncertainty with a calm heart. Fear is not an enemy. It is a bell reminding you to return to the present. Each time fear arises, see it as an opportunity to practice. As the night deepened and cool winds rustled the Bodhi leaves, the student felt his heart grow lighter. He realized that instead of trying to control the future, what mattered was to live fully in the present. And in that present moment, he could plant seeds of goodness for tomorrow. He bowed, palms together before his chest. Master, I know I will have many moments of weakness, but now I have a way to return. I am deeply grateful to you. The master placed his hand on the student's shoulder, his eyes kind. Very good. Remember, happiness does not lie in tomorrow. It is right here in every breath and every step you take today. The next morning, as the sun rose gently over the distant mountains, the temple bell rang deep and resonant, announcing a new day. The student awoke feeling far more serene than on previous mornings. He recalled the master's words from the night before. Happiness is not in tomorrow, but in each breath and step today. That thought made his steps toward the meditation hall feel lighter, even though the day's work still awaited him. When the entire monastery had settled into sitting posture, the master spoke in a warm voice. Yesterday we spoke much about fear of the future. Today I wish for us to reflect on something else. Desire. The student startled slightly. Since arriving at the temple, he had learned of letting go and mindfulness, but had not truly examined desire, the force deeply intertwined with his daily life. The master looked around at the assembly and told a story. There was once a king who, despite possessing gold, palaces, and power, was never satisfied. He always wanted more. One night, the king dreamed of a radiant jewel, unlike anything he had ever seen. Upon waking, he immediately sent people across the land to find it. But no matter how far they searched, none could bring back such a jewel. In his disappointment, the king grew irritable, angry, and eventually fell ill. One day, a Zen master visited him. After hearing the story, the master said, "The jewel you dreamed of is the mind free of craving. It already exists within you. No one can bring it to you." The student was struck silent. The story seemed to speak directly to him. He remembered the times he had thrown himself into work, shopping, and accumulating wealth, yet never felt content. The master continued, "Desire is not only for wealth, it is also for fame, for praise, for ease. When we get one thing, we crave another. This craving binds us and keeps our hearts from ever resting." The student asked hesitantly, "But Master, if I have no desire, will I still have motivation to live and to strive?" The master smiled. "There is a difference between craving and noble aspiration. Craving is the desire to possess for the satisfaction of the ego. Noble aspiration is the wish to move toward goodness and benefit, for yourself and for all beings. A mother working hard to raise her child, that is not craving, but love. A doctor dedicating their effort to saving lives, that is aspiration, not the desire for fame or gain. When your heart is directed toward the common good, that is a pure motivation. But when your heart only wants more for itself, that is craving, and craving always leads to suffering." The student nodded, a growing clarity in his heart. He realized that most of his worries and unease came from wanting more, from wanting to hold on to what he liked. The master added another example. Someone may spend a lifetime accumulating wealth, but when they close their eyes for the last time, they take nothing but their karma. Meanwhile, someone who lives simply, who knows contentment and shares freely, is at peace every day. Happiness is not about how much you have, but about whether you know how to stop. The student suddenly recalled an old proverb, Tri tuch gia thong lak. The one who knows contentment is always joyful. He smiled, feeling the familiar words come alive as never before. The master paused, looked around, and said, "So how do we transform craving? First, you must recognize it. When you see yourself wanting more or clinging, breathe and smile, and call it by name. Hello, craving? Second, reflect on impermanence. Everything changes, and nothing can be held for long. Third, practice contentment. Cherish what you already have. When you drink a cup of tea, know that within it are the clouds, the sunlight, the rain, and the farmer's labor. Seeing this, you will realize you already hold a treasure and need seek nothing more." The student felt warmth in his chest. He remembered the simple meals at home, his mother's cooking, just a few dishes yet always delicious. So happiness is not in quantity, but in wholehearted presence. The master looked at him gently. "Consider this. A greedy eater will never find food delicious. They eat quickly, eat much, and never savor the flavor. In contrast, one who stops after a few mindful bites enjoys every taste fully. Craving makes us miss life. Knowing contentment allows us to truly savor it." The student placed his palms together and bowed. "I understand now, Master. Craving is not only about possessions, but is present even in small habits. And by simply knowing when to stop, I can feel lighter." The master nodded. "Exactly. Practice is not something distant. It is found in every meal, every cup of tea, every step. When you release some of your craving, your heart naturally opens wide, at peace." A morning breeze rustled through the bamboo grove, as if echoing the Dharma talk. The student sat quietly, a profound sense of peace arising within. He realized that what he had been seeking all along, peace, had never truly left. It had always been there, merely hidden beneath the dust of craving, anger, and delusion. As the sun climbed higher, the master concluded the teaching. "Remember, all suffering begins with not knowing contentment. The one who knows contentment is the richest of all." The student bowed in gratitude. Within him, a new door opened. The door of contentment, of simple yet enduring happiness. That night, before sleeping, he sat quietly, breathing slowly. He smiled as he thought of the day, a day without added wealth, yet filled with greater peace. That afternoon, sunlight slanted through the rows of trees, casting gentle golden beams across the temple courtyard. The cicadas of late summer still chirped softly, yet within the monastery there was a profound silence. The student followed the master into the garden, where rows of lush green vegetables exuded a simple, earthy fragrance. As the master watered the plants, he said, "You see, just a few days without care and weeds grow quickly. Our minds are the same. If not nourished by mindfulness, the weeds of craving, anger, and delusion will spread, making us forget our own original clarity." The student listened, feeling each drop of water falling onto the earth, cool and pure. He said, "Master, I understand that craving causes suffering, but there's one thing I still don't understand. Anger. Whenever someone hurts me, I find it hard to keep my mind calm. Sometimes I hold back, but inside I'm boiling. How can I truly let go?" The master looked up and smiled gently. "You're right. Anger is the flame that burns the heart the fastest. The Buddha once taught, holding onto anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent to throw it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned first. Therefore, to extinguish that flame, you must first recognize it, not let it smolder inside." The student suddenly remembered all the times at work when, after being criticized by a colleague, he stayed silent but felt a heavy discomfort all day. He bowed his head. "But Master, how can I recognize anger early? when it comes so quickly?" The master replied softly, "Observe the first signals, your heartbeat quickening, your breath growing shorter, your shoulders tightening, your gaze heating up. When you notice these signs, know that the fire of anger is starting to kindle. At that very moment, just stop and take 3 deep breaths. Don't rush to react. Just breathing can already calm the flame." The student tried taking a deep breath, then exhaled slowly. He felt a small weight lift from his heart. The master continued, "But don't stop at breathing. You must contemplate. Ask yourself, why did that person speak that way? Perhaps they are suffering, exhausted, or under pressure from somewhere else. If you only see their words and not their roots, anger will arise easily. But when you see another's suffering, anger turns into compassion." The student was silent for a long while. He recalled a time when his father scolded him harshly for no reason. Back then, he felt wronged and resentful. But now he remembered. His father had just lost a harvest and was worried about debts. That suffering spilled over into harsh words. He sighed. "If only I had understood this at the time, I wouldn't have held on to my anger for so long." The master nodded. "Exactly. Anger often comes from not understanding. The deeper the understanding, the less the anger. That's why practicing compassion is the best way to transform anger. When you see that the other person is also a victim of ignorance and circumstances, you no longer wish to retaliate. Instead, you wish for them to suffer less." The student asked, "But if someone keeps doing wrong, and I only respond with compassion without reacting, wouldn't that be weakness?" The master smiled. "That is a common misunderstanding. Compassion is not weakness. Compassion is the strength that allows you to act rightly without being swept up in hatred. You can speak frankly, set boundaries, yet still maintain inner peace. It's like a mother teaching her child. Sometimes she must be firm, but in her heart there is only love, not anger." The student listened, and clarity gradually dawned in his heart. He realized that all this time he had mistaken restraint for suppression, when in truth, letting go of anger means transforming it into understanding and compassion. The master told a story. Long ago, a monk was harshly insulted by the villagers. Someone asked him if he felt anger. He replied, "If someone brings a gift, but I do not accept it, the gift still belongs to them." Words of insult are the same. If you do not accept them, they cannot harm you. The student laughed, then suddenly fell silent. He understood that all this time he had been accepting those toxic gifts, holding them close and making himself suffer. The master placed a hand on his shoulder. "From today on, practice not receiving such gifts. Breathe, smile, and remember that your heart does not need to hold on to garbage. Instead, plant seeds of compassion. When the heart is full of compassion, anger has no place to cling." As the afternoon sky turned purple and a few birds flew home, the student felt as if a mist inside him had lifted. He looked at the master and whispered, "I understand now. To end anger, I must learn to understand and to love." The master nodded. "That's right. Understanding is the foundation. Love is the fruit, and both begin with mindfulness." Night fell, and the sound of chanting echoed through the main hall. The student sat in the glow of candlelight, breathing steadily. He felt the droplets of anger within him dissolve day by day, like salt melting into water, leaving no trace. In his heart remained only boundless peace. One autumn morning, the monastery was silent. Yellow leaves scattered across the old brick courtyard, and the ringing of the temple bells seemed to sweep away all worldly dust. The student sat by the veranda, his eyes still carrying a hint of weariness. The master approached, broom in hand, sweeping leaves, as he asked, "Did you sleep well last night?" The student replied slowly, "Master, I tossed and turned for a long time. My mind kept echoing with worries about family, work, and even the future. Though I practiced breathing, my heart still would not settle. The master set the broom down and sat beside him. Do you know why your heart will not settle? It's not because those matters are too great, but because you have not yet learned to see them with the light of mindfulness. When our mind is swept up in whirlpools of thought, even in a peaceful monastery, storms still rise within. The student lowered his head. Master, I want to let go, but the more I try, the heavier it feels. It's as if the harder I try to forget, the clearer it becomes. Phew, the master smiled gently. Letting go is not pushing away, but seeing clearly. When you see the true nature of worry, it naturally dissolves, just as clouds vanish when the sun rises. If you suppress it, the clouds only grow thicker. The master continued. Long ago, the Buddha taught about 2 arrows. The first arrow is what happens. Illness, loss, misfortune. That is something no one can avoid. But the second arrow is the one we shoot at ourselves. Worrying, blaming, lamenting. It is the second arrow that makes the wound more painful. If you can stop and refrain from shooting the second arrow, your suffering will be reduced by half. The student remained silent for a long time, then asked, "But how can I know when I am shooting the second arrow at myself?" The master spoke slowly. Pay attention. When something happens, you can look directly at it, or you can add a series of stories. Why me? Why is life so unfair? Maybe things will get worse later. All those whispers are the second arrow. If you simply breathe and acknowledge, in my mind there is worry, there is unease, then you are looking straight at reality without embellishment. And at that very moment, the second arrow is gone. The student closed his eyes and breathed lightly. He recalled those sleepless nights when his mind replayed pessimistic scenarios again and again. He nodded. I understand now. It's not the event itself that hurts me most, but the stories I tell myself. The master nodded. That's right. And when you see that, you have already begun to practice wisdom. Mindfulness is not to eliminate thoughts, but to know when they arise, to smile at them and let them pass. The master stood up, picked up a yellow leaf, and handed it to the student. Look at this leaf. It is falling. Can you tell it not to fall? The student shook his head. No, master, it must fall. That's right, the master said. Everything is like that. What begins will end. What meets will part. People suffer because they want the leaves to stay green, the flowers never to fade. But when you understand impermanence, you learn to smile at both blooming and fading, both coming and going. The student listened and felt his heart lighten. He remembered all the times he tried to hold on to broken relationships, to opportunities long gone, and the more he clung, the more he suffered. He suddenly understood. Letting go is following the natural law, not forcing. The master continued. When you realize impermanence, you will cherish the present. Knowing that tomorrow may change, you will love more today. Instead of fearing loss, you will see every moment you have now as a gift. The student's eyes welled up as he thought of his mother in the countryside. It had been a long time since he visited, always telling himself to wait until later, until he was free. Now he understood. No one knows what tomorrow will bring. He whispered, I will visit my mother soon. The master placed a hand on his shoulder. That is the practice, to turn understanding into action, to transform insight into love. Don't let impermanence remain just a concept in books. Let it become the motivation to live mindfully every day. The sky shifted toward noon. The sound of the bells signaling mealtime echoed. The student walked with the master to the dining hall. Over the simple meal, he practiced eating slowly, chewing carefully, savoring the humble yet complete flavors. The master said, "When you eat mindfully, you nourish not only your body but also your mind. Each grain of rice reminds you that it is the result of countless conditions: rain, sun, soil, and the labor of farmers. Recognizing this, you will feel gratitude, and anger will have no place to cling." The student bowed his head, his heart overflowing with gratitude. He saw clearly that practice was never far away. Even in a meal, a breath, or a step, there is the way. When the noon meal ended, the student followed the master back to the courtyard. The sunlight had softened and a cool breeze passed through the trees. The master asked, "How does your heart feel now?" The student smiled. "Much lighter, master. I feel my heart has expanded, no longer cramped with worries like this morning." The master nodded. "That is the result of mindfulness. Do not expect that after one day or 1 month you will be perfectly accomplished. Practice is a lifetime journey, step by step, like sweeping the courtyard. Today you sweep it clean. Tomorrow the wind will blow leaves again, but by sweeping every day, the courtyard remains clear. In the same way, the mind is polished little by little, and through mindfulness, it becomes bright and pure." The student bowed in gratitude. In that moment, a deep faith blossomed within him. As long as he walked patiently step by step, the path would unfold and peace would reveal itself. As the afternoon on the mountain waned, the last light slanted through the leaves, creating a scene both tranquil and warm. The student sat beneath an ancient tree, his mind tangled with thoughts. When the master approached, he softly said, "Master, lately I find myself often comparing myself to others. Seeing friends successful, families harmonious, I feel lacking. Even though I know I shouldn't, envy and sadness still arise within me." The master sat down, listening without haste. Then gently he asked, "When you compare yourself like that, do you feel your heart at peace?" The student lowered his head. "No, master. My heart feels constricted. It's as if other people's joy becomes my suffering." The master smiled compassionately. "That is the trap of the mind. When we forget to look at what we already have, we easily look to others and weave suffering for ourselves. Remember, the water in your own cup may be little, but if you drink it mindfully, it can still quench your thirst. If you keep looking at someone else's cup, you will never feel enough." The student sighed. "I understand that with my mind, but when emotions surge, I still get swept away. How can I truly free myself from this comparison?" The master picked up a small stone and placed it in the student's hand. "Does this stone feel heavy to you?" "Not very heavy, master." "If you held it tightly all day, would it still feel light?" The student thought for a moment and shook his head. "No, surely it would feel tiring and heavy." The master nodded. "Comparison is the same. At first, it's just a passing thought. But if you keep holding on, it becomes a burden. To let go, you don't need to throw it far, just release it. Letting go is not fighting envy. It is choosing not to feed it." The student asked slowly, "But if I don't compare myself, will I still have the motivation to move forward?" The master looked at him with gentle eyes. "Do you know the difference between envy and inspiration? Envy looks at others' success and punishes itself. Inspiration looks at it and sees your own potential. One makes you suffer, the other awakens your strength. When your mind is clear, you will choose inspiration over envy." The master added, "The Buddha once said, 'The mind is like a field. If you plant seeds of envy, you will harvest suffering. If you plant seeds of gratitude, you will harvest peace.' The choice lies in every moment of awareness." The student fell silent, then suddenly remembered his childhood. There were times when he compared himself to his older brother, felt inferior, and grew sad. But there were also times when, seeing his brother's diligence, he felt inspired to try harder. He nodded gently. "I understand now. Not every comparison is bad. The important thing is how my mind chooses to see it." The master smiled. "Exactly. If your heart closes, that is envy. If your heart opens, that is inspiration." Practicing mindfulness is recognizing that delicate boundary. The sound of wind through the bamboo grove whispered like a reminder. The master continued, "Try practicing gratitude. Each night before you sleep, think of 3 small things you can appreciate: a meal, a smile, or simply the breath still within you. As the seed of gratitude grows, the seed of comparison will wither." The student looked up, his eyes brighter. "I will try, Master. I feel lighter when I think of the simple things I already have." The master nodded. "Good. In modern society, people are often swept into the whirlpool of achievement, always measuring and competing. But if you return to gratitude and the fullness of the present, you will find true peace." The sun was leaning toward evening, golden light covering the distant peaks. The student felt his heart warmed by the same golden hue. He knew today's lesson was not just to hear, but to practice daily, letting each step sow seeds of peace. As night slowly descended over the mountain, a cool breeze carried the scent of wildflowers from the bamboo forest. In that stillness, the student sat on the temple porch, his heart lingering on recent lessons about gratitude and comparison. Watching the moon rise, he sighed softly and said, "Master, I still often think of the past. There are things I regret, opportunities I missed, and I feel my mind being pulled away, unable to find peace." The master listened, his eyes gentle. After a moment, he asked, "Do you see yourself sitting here now? Do you feel your breath coming in and going out?" The student, slightly surprised, nodded. "Yes, I do." "Then you are present in this moment. But when your mind runs to the past, you are only reliving old images, like holding an old photograph, staring at it endlessly without changing anything. The past can teach you, but if you cling to it, it becomes a chain." The student stayed silent, a flicker of sadness in his eyes. "I understand, but sometimes memories come back so strongly. I recall my mistakes and blame myself. How can I let go?" The master picked up a dry twig from the porch, gently snapped it and let it fall. "See? When a dry twig falls, it blends into the earth, becoming fertilizer for new growth. Mistakes are the same. If you learn from them, they become nourishment for your growth. But if you cling to them, they only weigh you down." The student pondered, then asked, "So letting go means forgetting, Master?" The master smiled. "Not forgetting, but remembering differently. Remember to learn, not to torment yourself. When you walk a rocky path, your feet may hurt, but afterward you choose better shoes. That is the wisdom of the past. If you keep staring at the wound and blaming yourself, you will never move forward." In the brightening moonlight, the master told an old story. There was once a novice monk who broke the monastery's jade bowl. He was so afraid that he lost sleep for many nights. When he confessed to his teacher, the teacher simply said, "The bowl was already broken the moment you picked it up. Only the moment had not yet come. All things with form are destined to break. What matters is not the jade bowl, but what your heart learns from the event." The student bowed his head softly. "I realize I have been too harsh on myself. Instead of learning, I only blamed." The master nodded. "That's right. Practice looking at yourself with eyes of compassion. When you know how to be gentle with yourself, only then can you truly be gentle with others." For a long while, they sat in silence. The chirping of crickets in the night sounded like a soothing rhythm. Then the master asked, "And the future? What worries you?" The student sighed. "I fear failure. I fear not achieving what I hope for. Thinking about what hasn't happened yet makes me anxious." The master pointed to the sky. "Do you see the moon? It waxes, then wanes, then waxes again. The future is the same, always changing. If you keep worrying, you're like a person who hasn't yet set sail, but already imagines sinking. But if you prepare and steer wisely, you can pass through any storm. Where the student listened, feeling his heart grow lighter. The master continued, "The Buddha taught that the present moment is the only place we can live. The past is gone, the future not yet here. When your mind stops in your breath, your step, or the moonlight, you will feel at peace. The future is built from this very present, it's nowhere else." The student asked quietly, "But Master, sometimes the present feels so ordinary, nothing special. How can I find joy in such ordinariness?" The master smiled kindly. "It's precisely the ordinary that is precious. A simple meal, a cool drink of water, a deep breath. If you can treasure these, they are treasures indeed. Those who cannot find happiness in the ordinary will never find it, even in the extraordinary." The master added another story. Long ago, a king sought the secret of happiness. Many wise men offered advice, but none satisfied him. At last, he met a Zen master who handed him a cup of water and said, "Drink it mindfully." After drinking, the king felt an unusual lightness in his heart. From then on, he understood happiness was not on the throne, but in mindfulness within each moment. The student laughed. "So what I've been searching for has been right before my eyes." The master nodded. "Exactly. When your mind rests peacefully in the present, neither past nor future can bind you. You will find freedom right here and now." Night had fully descended. The bright moon bathed the temple courtyard in silver light. The student felt his breath grow deep and steady, as if it were moving in harmony with the earth's rhythm. He knew he had just learned a profound lesson. Let go of the past, fear not the future, and live fully in the present. In the stillness, the master spoke softly once more. Each day, take a few minutes to sit quietly, simply to breathe and smile. This is how you water the seeds of peace. You need not search far, just return to yourself, and you will find your mind as a still lake reflecting the pure moonlight. The student bowed deeply in reverence. His heart overflowed with gratitude, no longer heavy as before. He silently vowed to nurture this practice in his daily life, so that each step he took would carry the mark of mindfulness. The next morning, while mist still veiled the bamboo tips and the temple bell had just echoed through the air, the student approached the master with another concern. He placed his palms together. "Master, I often find myself easily swept away by other people's emotions. When someone is sad, I also feel sad. When someone is angry, I flare up as well. How can I both empathize and still keep peace within myself?" The master smiled gently, pointing to a dewdrop shimmering on a lotus leaf in the pond. "Do you see that dewdrop? It is transparent, reflecting light, but it does not dissolve into the leaf. It rests upon it without attachment. Compassion is like that. You can feel another's suffering, but you need not sink into it." The student pondered. "But if I don't let my heart be swayed, wouldn't that make me insensitive?" The master shook his head. "No. Insensitivity is closing your heart, refusing to see anyone's pain. Compassion is opening your heart, seeing and understanding suffering, yet keeping your mind clear so you can help. If you drown in their pain, you won't have the steadiness to lift them up. You would be like someone who sees a friend fall into a pit, and instead of offering a hand, jumps in to cry alongside. Would that help?" The student smiled faintly, his eyes brightening. "I understand now. Compassion must walk with wisdom." The master nodded. "Exactly. Compassion without wisdom easily becomes entanglement. Wisdom without compassion easily turns cold. Only together do they form the right path." The master shared another story. Long ago, a man spent an entire day hurling insults at the Buddha. The Buddha sat silently, offering no reaction. When the man asked why he did not respond, the Buddha said, "If someone brings you a gift, but you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man replied, "To the giver." The Buddha smiled. "Likewise, I do not accept your insults. They remain with you." That was not indifference. It was wisdom keeping the mind untainted. The student sat quietly for a long while. He remembered many times when he had acted rashly, letting someone else's anger become his own. The master's words sank deep into his heart. Looking at him with kindness, the master continued, "In modern life, you will encounter many who are sad, angry, frustrated, or resentful. If you are not steady, you will be swept along. But if you know how to breathe and pause, you can listen without losing your own peace. That is the strength of mindfulness." The student asked, "But Master, if I remain calm in the face of someone's suffering, won't they think I'm cold or uncaring?" The master replied softly, "What matters is not that you mirror their outward emotions, but that you are truly present for them. When someone is sad, they don't need you to cry in their place. They need a steady hand to hold and an understanding gaze. Compassion is not dissolving into suffering. It is becoming a safe harbor for others to lean on." That afternoon, sunlight slanted through the trees, casting gentle golden streaks across the temple courtyard. The cicadas of late summer still hummed, but within the monastery, all was silent. The master paused, pouring a cup of hot tea for the student. The warmth spread, the fragrance was tender. The master said, "Drinking tea is the same. You savor its flavor, but you don't swallow the whole pot. You taste enough to know, then let go. Don't carry all of another's pain in your heart. Let it pass, like tea's aroma dissolving in the air." The student nodded, his eyes brightening. He whispered, "I will practice being like a dewdrop on a lotus leaf, reflecting but not dissolving." The master smiled with satisfaction. "Good. Remember, only when you keep your heart at peace can you truly help the world." That noon, master and student went out to the vegetable garden behind the temple. As he pulled weeds, the master explained, "Look at these weeds. If we just keep tugging without removing the roots, they grow back. Negative emotions are the same. To avoid being swept away, you must look deeply to see the roots. Someone's anger may come from long-standing pain, from wounds still unhealed. When you see this, you won't blame but will feel compassion." The student asked, "Master, does that mean I must investigate every cause behind someone's pain?" The master shook his head. "No need to analyze too much. Just remember, everyone carries hidden suffering. Knowing this naturally softens your heart and steadies your mind. Your heart opens, but wisdom keeps you upright." As evening fell and sunlight bathed the temple paths in gold, the student sat beneath the Bodhi tree, his heart expanding. He understood that from now on he would listen without letting another's pain consume him. He would be a calm harbor, not a raging wave. Before they parted for the day, the master reminded him, "Remember the 3 steps of practice. First, recognize the feeling arising in you when you encounter another's emotions. Second, breathe deeply and steady your heart so you are not swept away. Third, look with the eyes of compassion, seeing behind the anger or sadness a human being longing for happiness. Doing so, you keep your peace and sow seeds of compassion in the world." The student placed his palms together in gratitude. Within him, a new confidence had grown firm. To love without clinging, to empathize without losing serenity. Night descended, the forest wind rustled through the leaves. The student lay listening to crickets chirping, his heart light. He smiled silently. From now on, he would live like a dewdrop on a lotus leaf, clear, reflecting, but never swept away. That afternoon, the sky was draped in gray clouds. The first raindrops of the season pattered softly on the temple's tiled roof, a gentle rhythm like a quiet drumbeat. The student sat on the veranda watching the rain, worry rising in his heart. Master, I realize that even with much practice, I am still easily swayed by outside things. A single word of praise or criticism, a success or failure, is enough to make me joyful or restless. How can I keep my heart from being swept away by these changes? The master sat down slowly beside him, his kind eyes following the falling rain. Look at these raindrops. Some vanish quickly on the tiles, others linger a little longer, but in the end, all flow away. Praise and blame, gain and loss are the same. If you cling to them, you will suffer. If you watch them like rain falling, coming and going, you will remain at peace. The student pondered deeply. But Master, in modern life, I must strive for career, status, and financial stability. If I see everything as transient, will I still have the motivation to live and contribute? The Master smiled gently. It's not about abandoning everything, it's about living with mindfulness. You still work, still contribute. But do not let success or failure determine your worth. A gardener tends the plants daily but cannot force the flowers to bloom at will. They simply give their best, and when the right conditions come, the flowers bloom. Humans are the same. Sow good seeds. Work wholeheartedly, but let go of clinging to the result. In this way, you live responsibly while keeping your peace. The student listened, his eyes brightening. I understand now, success is not to prove myself, but a natural outcome when I live with mindfulness and compassion. The master nodded. That's right. The Buddha once taught that the mind is like a lake. When the lake is still, the moon is reflected clearly. If you let it be disturbed by the winds of praise and blame, gain and loss, you will never see the moon of wisdom within yourself. The master continued. There's an old Zen story about a famous master. When praised, he smiled. When insulted, he also smiled. A disciple asked why he was not happy at praise or angry at insult. He replied, if I rejoice at praise, I will also suffer at insult. If I am angered by insult, I will never be free. I simply keep my heart like the sky. When white clouds come, I see them. When dark clouds come, I see them too. But the sky remains vast and unchanged. Hearing this, the student felt his heart grow lighter. He recalled times when praise at work made him elated all day, but a single criticism kept him awake at night. He realized it was his attachment to praise and blame that exhausted him. The master gazed into the distance. Have you noticed? The world today is full of arguments and criticism on social media. People are quick to anger over a single comment. If you are not steady, you too will be swept into that current. But remember, no one can make you suffer unless you hand them that power. The student was surprised. What does it mean to hand over that power, Master? The master replied, when you believe your happiness depends on someone's praise, you've given them control over your heart. When you let a criticism steal your sleep, you've handed them the key to your peace. But if you return to your breath and watch words drift like passing clouds, you keep the key in your own hands. The student bowed his head, feeling a clear truth revealed. The master placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. This practice is not easy, but you can begin with small things. When you hear praise, smile, feel grateful, but remind yourself, this is only a white cloud. When you hear blame, smile, listen, take what is true to learn, and let the rest float away. This is only a dark cloud. Gradually, your heart will grow steady. The student asked, if I remain calm in the face of praise and blame, won't people think I'm indifferent or lack passion? The master answered, equanimity is not indifference. Equanimity keeps the flame in your heart burning bright without letting the winds extinguish it. You remain passionate and wholehearted. yet you do not lose your freedom. In truth, the one who is calm is the one who can act most wisely, unclouded by pride or ambition. That evening after the chanting session, the student remained seated in the main hall, listening to the steady sound of rain. He suddenly realized that for so many years, he had allowed praise and blame, gain and loss to control his heart like a leaf blown by the wind. Now he wanted to learn to be the sky, vast, open, unchanging amidst wind and rain. The master approached, sat beside him, and softly said, "You see, life itself is a school. Praise and blame, success and failure are its tests. If you can pass them with a peaceful heart, you will gradually mature. Remember, what matters is not what others think of you, but whether you can keep your own peace." The student placed his palms together and bowed deeply. Gratitude surged within him. He knew that from now on he would practice being like the sky, where praise drifts by like passing clouds, and gain and loss are only fleeting rains. That night, as he lay down to rest, he silently vowed, "From tomorrow on, I will no longer hand over the key to my peace to anyone. I will keep it in my hands, through my breath, through mindfulness." And he fell into a deep, restful sleep. The next morning, after the night's rain, the monastery garden was soaked with dew. Drops of water sparkled on the bamboo leaves, reflecting the newly risen sun. The student stepped into the courtyard, took a deep breath, and savored the scent of damp earth and cool air. In his heart, a question arose. "Master, I have heard much about impermanence and change, but in life I am still very afraid of loss, from small things to the people I love. How can I face impermanence without suffering?" The master sat beneath the eaves, lifting a cup of hot tea, and smiled gently. "You do not need to try to avoid suffering. Impermanence is a truth no one can escape. What matters is learning to look deeply and see that within impermanence lies both sorrow and a gift. When you fear losing something, remember that it is because of impermanence that flowers bloom, that change and healing are possible." The student tilted his head. "But Master, if I lose a loved one or the work I cherish, how can that ever be called a gift?" Placing his cup of tea down, the master's eyes grew distant. "Do you remember the story of the grain of rice? A grain of rice, if kept unchanged, will dry up and die. But if it accepts decay in the soil, it will sprout, grow into a rice plant, and bear new grains. Loss on the surface seems like destruction, but seen more deeply, it opens the way for new life to manifest. The person you love may leave, but the love you planted in them will continue to sprout in the hearts of many others. A job may be lost, but the experience you have gained remains as seeds for a new journey. Impermanence teaches you to cherish and also to let go." The student remained silent, letting the master's words sink in. He suddenly remembered his childhood, when he had clung tightly to an old toy and wept when it broke. Yet it was through that loss that his parents gifted him a new book, one that awakened his love for learning. The master continued, "Look at the dewdrop on the leaf. It sparkles beautifully, but when the sun rises, it dissolves. If you weep because it vanishes, you will miss seeing that it has returned to the mist and the clouds. In the same way, nothing is ever truly lost, it only changes form." The student asked, "So, Master, how can I live fully with impermanence instead of letting it frighten me?" The master smiled. "Through mindfulness, each time you look at a flower, be aware that it will wither, precisely because you know it will fade. You will cherish every moment it blooms. When you sit beside a loved one, remember that one day they will depart. Thus, you will speak words of love. You will treasure every touch of a hand, instead of letting the days pass in carelessness. Impermanence is not meant to frighten you, but to remind you to love right now." The student fell silent. He thought of the times he had held grudges against friends, only to regret it after they were gone. He silently vowed never to delay words of love again. The master looked at him kindly. In today's world, people often try to cling to what cannot be held. They undergo surgeries to preserve beauty, exhaust themselves to keep wealth, and worry endlessly to maintain status. But when impermanence arrives, they suffer all the more. If they could smile at impermanence, they would be free. You don't need to fight the current. You just need to learn to swim in it with a peaceful heart. The student pressed his palms together, feeling a wave of peace flow through his chest. After a moment, he asked, "Master, when impermanence brings suffering, how should I practice so as not to be overwhelmed?" The master replied, "Remember 3 steps. First, breathe. Return to your body and mind, like lighting a lamp in the dark. Second, recognize. Name your sorrow or fear, as if cradling a crying child. Third, look deeply, to see the roots and to see the truth that it, too, is impermanent. Pain comes and goes, fear comes and goes. If you are patient, you will see you are not swept away." The student closed his eyes, inhaled and exhaled. He felt his heart lighten as though a stone had been set down. The master added a story. Long ago, a woman who had lost her child, overwhelmed by grief, went to the Buddha asking for medicine to bring him back. The Buddha told her to find a mustard seed from a household where no one had ever died. She searched everywhere but could not find one. In the end, she realized that loss is part of the human condition. Through that realization, she let go of her anguish and began to practice. Impermanence, when seen with wisdom, is the doorway to liberation. The student opened his eyes and nodded. "I understand now. Impermanence does not only take away, it also gives. It teaches me to love, to let go, and to grow." The master nodded, his eyes full of compassion. "Yes. And remember, impermanence is also your companion in not clinging to negativity. When someone insults you, think of their words as the wind, passing through and gone. When you feel pain, remember that pain does not last forever. Impermanence takes away, but it also offers gifts. If you can receive it, you will see that within suffering there is a seed of peace." The sun broke through the clouds. Dewdrops slowly vanished, but the scent of the earth after rain lingered, fresh and sweet. The student took a deep breath and felt his heart lighten. He knew that from now on, when facing loss, he would remember the master's words. Do not resist, do not flee, just smile and walk with impermanence. That night, he sat in his room and wrote a few lines in his journal. Today, I learned a profound lesson about impermanence. I will cherish every moment with my loved ones, never delay words of love, and release lightly when loss comes. Impermanence is no longer a shadow, but a teacher showing me how to live more deeply. He closed his journal, blew out the lamp, and in peaceful sleep, he dreamed of walking through a garden full of flowers, each petal shimmering in the light, breathtakingly beautiful, even knowing they would fall tomorrow. That afternoon, the sky turned a gentle pale gold, and the last rays of sunlight stretched across the monastery grounds. The student sat beneath the Bodhi tree, and a strange, tender gratitude arose in his heart. He had walked with the Master through countless lessons, listened to many stories, endured silent moments and struggles with himself. Placing his palms together toward the Master, he asked, "Master, I have learned much about impermanence, letting go, and mindfulness. But I still wonder, where do all these teachings ultimately lead me? What is the final purpose of practice? Is there a destination called enlightenment, or is it simply about living better each day?" The Master looked at him with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "You ask well. People often think practice is to reach a distant goal, a miraculous realm. But truly, the purpose of practice is not to go anywhere. It is to return to yourself, to your breath, to the present moment. When you clearly see the nature of impermanence, when you live with mindfulness, when you nurture compassion and wisdom, that itself is enlightenment. Enlightenment is not a destination at the end of the road, but each steady step along it. The student was silent, letting the words sink deeply. In his heart, he felt a lightness, as if all this time he had been chasing something far away, only to realize it had always been within his own breath. The master continued, "Look at the pond before the temple. When the wind stirs, the surface ripples and the reflection is distorted. But when the wind stops, the pond becomes still and the sky appears clearly. Your mind is the same. When illusions, craving, anger, and ignorance arise, you see the world distorted. When the mind is calm, you see the truth clearly. That is wisdom, and that wisdom is not far. It blooms the moment you pause, breathe, and become aware." The student nodded and exhaled softly. He remembered all the times in life he had rushed and stumbled, chasing desires while forgetting himself. He understood now that happiness was nowhere else. It was here, right now. The master told a story. Long ago, someone asked the Buddha, "What do you teach?" The Buddha replied, "I teach suffering and the path to the end of suffering." Truly, everything we have studied turns around this. Suffering is ignorance, clinging, anger, and fear. The path to freedom is mindfulness, wisdom, and compassion. If you practice each day, you are already walking the path of enlightenment. You need not search elsewhere. Hearing this, a wave of serenity spread through the student's whole being. He whispered, "I understand now, Master. Enlightenment is not a destination, but the path I am already on." The master nodded. "And remember, every mindful breath, every conscious step, every compassionate word, these are all expressions of enlightenment. Do not wait for some grand miracle. Live deeply within each small moment." A gentle breeze rustled the Bodhi leaves. The student listened to their whispering, feeling as if the entire universe was softly reciting a wondrous Dharma teaching. The master looked at him, his voice steady and calm. "Do you have anything else you wish to ask?" The student bowed his head. "Master, I only wish to know how to remain diligent when I leave the monastery and return to the noisy world outside." The master reflected for a moment. Diligence is not always fierce effort. It is simply returning. When you forget, remember to come back. When you are lost, know to return. Each day, give yourself a little time to sit quietly, breathe, smile, and nourish mindfulness. Gradually, you will see that you are no longer swept away as before. Diligence is like that, gentle but steadfast. The student listened, as if a door had opened before him. He knew he could not be perfect right away, but he also knew that as long as he patiently returned, the path would gradually grow brighter. The sun sank low and golden light spread over the monastery. Master and student sat silently watching the sky and earth. The student felt his heart overflow with gratitude. He had searched for happiness in many places, but in the end, he realized that happiness was simply mindfulness in this very moment. He silently vowed, "I will return to daily life with a grateful heart, mindful breath, and compassion. I will sow seeds of peace not only for myself, but for everyone I meet." The master smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Very good, you understand. Remember, the wheel of Dharma always turns, without pause. You only need to walk with it, with a peaceful heart, a clear mind, and loving kindness. That is true practice." Night fell, and the moon rose, illuminating the garden. The student looked up at the full moon and felt his own heart just as bright. He knew the journey did not end here. It was truly beginning. Tonight, as the temple bell resonates in the stillness, let us pause to feel our breath and the peaceful smile within our hearts. The path of practice does not end here. It will continue in every step, every word, every thought of our daily lives. Just by keeping a little mindfulness, a little compassion, we are already planting seeds of peace for ourselves and those around us. If you feel these reflections have brought you ease, please like and subscribe to Dharma in Motion. Your support is an encouragement for us to continue sharing the Buddha's teachings, helping more people find peace amidst the turbulence of modern life. May you have a truly peaceful night and a bright, clear heart. See you again in the upcoming Dharma talks and Zen stories on Dharma in Motion.